Я подтверждение ситуации передаю настройку. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, AK heads, we are back with another episode of the Talking Lead AK Korner, Season 3, Episode 5. Almost to the halfway point for our third season of the Talking Lead AK Korner. If you didn't get a chance, make sure you go to last month's episode where our guest was M13. We had John Holton on, and we talked Kalashnikov-smithing. And Brian and I had a really good time with John on that episode. Had some great tips. So for you smithers out there, home builders, or if you're looking for a good AK builder, check out that episode. And as I mentioned, joining me again this episode, my co-host, Brian Keeney with Occam Defense Solutions. Brian, welcome in.
Happy as always to be here. It's nice to get a break from regular work and talk guns.
Heck yeah, man. I'm glad to see you cleaned up your office there, too, man. It's looking spiffy.
Well, thank you. We're trying. I don't, one of my guys told me to say that the drop cloth behind my shoulder there is a super secret development project, but really it's where everything had to go when I...
That's all the shit you moved out of the way? You just covered it up. Yeah. I do. That's what's behind this. That's why I've got that up, too. So Brian, we're going to have a great episode. We're kind of switching gears a little bit from the AK, where I've mentioned it a few times, where I want to get into talking about some other guns. We're going to talk submachine guns, and specifically the Uzi, the Israeli Uzi. Yeah, there it is right there. And to help us with this conversation, we brought in an expert. We brought in Tom, and Tom, I'm going to let you say your last name.
Jeez, here we go again.
Because I'll jack it up. I don't want it to sound Arabic.
Yeah, Alibrando. It's just Alibrando, man.
Sicilian, right?
Yeah, it's a long Dago name. That's what that is.
With Tom's with IWI. Tom, welcome in. One of the sponsors of the Talking Lead AK Korner.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This is fun. This is cool, man.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time. I've been very excited about this, especially the build up to it, the research that I've been doing prior. As you lead heads are listening, I did a post earlier this week. I got to go to Royal Range USA where they had a full auto Uzi, and I got to play around with that a little bit. So that was really fun. Hopefully one day I'll get one of the new modern ones there that. The
Uzi Pros. We'll have to have you up at the factory for the
yes.
That thing is pretty slick. It's pretty cool. They really did a pretty good job of updating it to what its potential could be. All the gripes that were out there with the old Uzi, and you understand things change based on technology and needs.
Yeah.
So they kind of got it up to speed.
And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, too, is we're going to kind of start off with the history and then work our way up to where you guys have modernized it today, and it's kind of the evolution of the Uzi.
The Uzi, yeah, absolutely.
The Uzi.
Love it.
And I think probably a good place to start would be with just kind of the category of submachine gun, and just let's talk about, what a submachine gun is.
So, general definition comes from, actually back in, the early 1900s, and it was John Thompson really who coined it. It's basically they had belt-fed machines, those like Maxims back then, but this one fired a pistol round, so it was a sub-machine gun. It was a full auto system, shoulder-fired, that fired a pistol caliber. Of course, back then, all they had, was pistol caliber and then full-size rifle calibers like 30-06 and 8mm and things like that. So having something that did that was kind of a new thing. And obviously, World War I, the evolution of that changed everything. When you get into trench warfare, the shotgun suddenly becomes extremely important.
Right.
And then having these close-in fights, full on, the war started one way and it ended a complete other. Of course, millions of people killed in between, but there's this innovation that's happening at the same time, and they're trying to catch up with the reality of the battlefield. So that's where the submachine gun came in. I don't know if you know this or not, but they actually tried to take a 1903 rifle. The rifle is called a Patterson device, and it loaded on the top, and they're trying to modify the 1903 rifle to fire essentially a pistol round as well, because they were so desperate for something like that.
Yeah.
They were looking at every avenue possible, and obviously, the Thompson came in, and of course,
Which, when you said John Thompson, that's the inventor of the Thompson submachine gun.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, he was the one to coin the phrase submachine gun, but the submachine gun, as it, is defined, came before that. Like you said,
it did.
Kind of around just before World War I.
Yep.
We were getting a lot of the innovations for the submachine gun. Pistol caliber, basically rifle. So that's where they come with this. So it's something less than a rifle caliber.
Less than a rifle cartridge, right?
Yeah.
And and the war drove it. 1915 is when you really start seeing more innovation, people pouring money into it and trying to get something that would work. So, I mean, there was a whole lot of things that came out of that war, but that was one of the preliminary ones, obviously. So,
yeah, and I guess one of the early examples of that would be, I've got it on here, the OVP 1918.
Yes.
Which came from Italy.
Yep. There's two Italian guns that came out of Italy. That was one of them. That was a derivative of another, believe it or not, another submachine gun that they were working on that had 2 barrels and 2 magazines.
Oh, really?
But it didn't work. Yeah, it had a high rate of fire. It didn't work right. So they ended up switching it out to that, and that's where that came from. It had a very strange cocking device on it. It was very awkward. It was just an unusual weapon. It really didn't take off. You don't get into more of a modern system until, obviously the Thompson is I would consider it modern. Had more of a complex locking system. And then the MP18, the German gun, which actually carries over for a while. It actually works really well. But they're using wood stocks. It's not what you think of as a traditional submachine gun, like the Thompson. Everybody knows that profile, right. But
the earlier ones were better built. They were milled instead of the stamp receivers, as we're seeing as they develop and become more and more popular, because they want to make them cheaper and easier to use and produce. But the earlier models, if you look at those things are solid. They're solid. They're beautiful guns.
The OVP in particular, if you look at it, it did have a stamped metal kind of deal going on with it, and it was a bit awkward. But yeah, you're right. Most of the other ones were absolutely fantastic. I'm
going to share my screen here for our video, because we're recording a video on this too. Can you see that?
Yeah.
What I've got there?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in.
There's the Beretta. That's the Beretta. That one was good, and the MP18 underneath there. That thing was. If you go behind if you blow up the OVP there.
Yeah, here's the OVP
the magazine where it goes in. It feeds from the top. The cocking handle is actually that tube right behind the magazine. You had to push a button and pull it back.
This one here, is it over here?
It's actually in the rear position right now.
Okay.
But yeah, that's how you cocked it. That's why you don't see a cocking handle. It was a very unusual way of doing it. And the sights are offset. They're not actually in line. They're offset to the left of the magazine. You notice that the magazines they have are feeding from the top. And that had a lot to do with rifle design. Everything fed from the top with rifles. And that one ejected straight out the bottom. So it was very unique. It was odd by today's standards. But the MP18 right there, the German one below the Beretta, that guy actually gets used for quite a while. Like, it starts working its way.
The Bergman MP18.
Yes, that one ends up right before World War II. You'll still see that even in the early days until the Schmeitzer comes around. The Schmeitzer kind of took over, and that became
the Schmeitzer is the 40, right?
Yeah, the 3840. There was 2 versions of it, and the 38 had a problem, and it had to do with the bolt. It's an open bolt gun, and it didn't have like a safety. You had to cock it and lift it into a cocking handle, kind of like what you think of an MP5, right? Mm-hmm. And that was the safety. When you pulled it back down again, now it's ready to fire. So it was a matter of moving the handle to get it to work.
Yeah.
But
so now we're getting into the World War II gun. So after the Bergman MP18, because it still has that beautiful wood, milled. It's got a side magazine feed there. The Thompson was actually designed for World War I.
It was.
But they didn't actually get to use it that much in World War I, and was more in World War II.
It had some complaints, the Thompson did, though. And it had a 100-round drum initially. I don't know if you remember that. Those are very rare to find nowadays, by the way. They're worth thousands of dollars if you find one. They ended up cutting them up after the war. But it was super. That's an 11-pound submachine gun. It's pretty heavy without ammo, and I had one. I had a 19.
So that wood alone, with the stock and the grip, the two grips, that's solid wood on those things.
And that was milled. It was all milled, and it had a different kind of locking system to it. But the interesting thing was that drum rattled so bad. It made a lot of noise. If it got any mud in it or whatever, it was dead. So they used stick magazines in it if they could, and the drum sort of fell by the wayside. I did get to shoot an original drum in mine, and it worked great. It was select fire too.
Oh, nice.
So a lot of submachine guns, they're full auto and safe. And these the original one that you showed, the OVP, believe it or not, is a select fire. That's why it has two triggers. The one trigger in the front is semi-auto. The trigger at the rear is full auto, which is kind of unique. So it's ugly, but it was sort of practical too. So that's why you have two triggers in there. That rear trigger is the full auto, and the whole there you go, the whole assembly.
Oh, okay. I didn't even notice it had two triggers, but yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's got two triggers, right? It was a very odd weapon. The magazine that you see in the top, it rocks into place. So it's kind of unique. And it was one of the first ones, but it really didn't. It wasn't that successful. They were trying to rush it in and trying to make it happen. It was it was okay. So
and the money on that they took to make these earlier submachine guns, is pretty expensive to make these. And then as we see the development go with the Beretta Model 38, the MP40, and as we start progressing, they slowly start losing the wood. They lose the mill. They go to the stamped or rolled metal.
Exactly.
And then as we develop to post World War II, then we start getting into
more modern age,
more of what we're into these days. And so the Uzi, which we get to the Uzi.
Let me back up to the Thompson real quick. The Thompson cost $200 to make back then.
Back in the day.
It was $200. No, that was big money. That was huge.
Yeah.
So how much is a tax stamp nowadays?
$200.
It's $200. So they established that price because of the Thompson. It's because it cost $200. It was a gangster. You basically had to pay for the gun twice to get it, which was interesting. And that's why it's basically stayed $200 since, I think, 1934.
We had a conversation about this on our regular episode. I had an attorney on the Munitions Law Group, and Derek at Munitions Law Group, and we were talking about how it's unconstitutional, actually illegal, to charge a tax on a right, and the Second Amendment is a right.
That's true. That's an interesting.
So tax stamps are illegal.
All right, you go ahead and tell the BATF.
Yeah, right. Jack wagons.
we deal, at our job, we have to deal with that as well. Obviously, we're manufacturers, so we're constantly dealing with that. But yeah, it's interesting.
I get my Skype back up here. So I'm trying something new. I haven't shared my screen before, so let's. There we go. Boom.
It works.
Tom, I'm fairly familiar with the AK, but I know very little about machine guns in general. And so for those of us noobs in the gallery here, would you mind going over the difference between open bolt and closed bolt machine guns and moving firing pins and immovable firing pins? And in the case of the Uzi, you were saying, I think before we started taping, that it fires from a closed bolt Oh,
The new one does.
Versions do.
right.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going. Is I thought, yeah. So if you could go through.
So let's do this because I've got a whole outline for this, and that's going to come into play. So we've got introduced now to the modern day. We're in the 50s with the Uzi.
Right.
I actually wanted to touch on the Czechoslovakian firearm that it was modeled after. So if you could kind of go over that, and let's get into the Uzi, and then let's do the history, and then we'll get into the parts and all that.
Well, they'll say that it's kind of like Kalashnikov saying that he didn't take any what do you call it? I don't know, inspiration from the MP30, the Sturmgewehr, right?
Sturmgewehr, yeah.
Yeah, the Sturmgewehr. So there was the Czech gun did have some influence on it, but in full disclosure, from being over there, they were explaining that they were actually working on this in 1948. It wasn't something that just came about miraculously in 1950. It was something that they had been developing, going through the grip with the magazine or through the pistol grip to make it shorter and to make it simpler. So they'll say it really didn't come from that, but you can see that there's absolute inspiration that came from the Czech gun.
Let me bring that back up.
Yeah, and the Czech gun, you'll see
there it is.
Yeah, very, very similar. The Israeli gun, the one thing they didn't do is they didn't go with the wire stock at all, or the bar there. Mm-hmm. They actually had a wood stock on it. It was the Uzi A, and they had 4 different versions of that wood stock that went on the back of it. So, they didn't use that. It was a more comfortable stock, but it gave you a lot of, there you go. And that's one of the later ones. You can tell by the angled butt plate on the back. That one you could actually hit a button and pull it off.
Oh, sweet.
The earlier one stayed on. Now, when I was in Israel in '87, I still saw a couple of Muldoons down by the Dead Sea, IDF, with the wood stocked Uzi in '87. I remember seeing that and going, "Wow, you don't see that one every day." Normally,
I really like the ones with the wood stocks. I think they're beautiful.
They're beautiful, but it added weight, and obviously, the reason they did the removing thing is.
But it helped with accuracy.
Store it. It helped with accuracy. It was comfortable. But it was a way that you could store it easier when you pulled it off and stuck it in the bag or whatever.
Sure.
But they wanted something they could easily fold. And I'll tell you right now, I've shot the one that kind of ladders its way out, and that's not quite as comfortable. It's convenient, and it's a stamped metal butt plate, so it has a tendency to slide on you. You really got to kind of bury it in when you're shooting full auto. But once you get used to it, I'll tell you right now, it's an incredible weapon to shoot.
Yeah.
I think you've had some experience with it, and it's wonderful. It's a good weapon.
Yeah, absolutely. I really enjoyed it. So let's talk about, I guess, Uziel. Is that how you say it? Uzi
Gall. Mm-hmm.
Gall. So in the late 40s, and I don't guess he's as revered as Mikhail Kalashnikov was for the AK-47 in designing the Uzi. Is he? Is he there?
He is there, and he didn't want the weapon even named after him at all. He was actually kind of this more, I guess, humble guy. They decided to call it the Uzi. He did not want anything to do with it, really. He just wanted to invent it, made it, and like I said, it came out in 1950. Now, they were a free state in 1948, but they'd been working on this, trying to get it to where it is essentially now, and it's one of those things that they do revere him to a degree. I can tell you that right now. So there's no other real weapons. The Galileo, I guess, is named after Galilei. Mm-hmm. There's also a mountain in Israel called Galileo, the Galileo Mountain. They usually name their weapons after places, not people.
Not people.
Yeah.
Is that kind of why he was reluctant? Because from what I've read, he didn't want it named after him.
No, he did not. No, he didn't. It's just that was not his intent. So, but he built a great weapon, and you got to understand back then you got to take it in context. For you had World War II, machine guns, submachine guns, things like that. That you look at the Thompson that they had in World War II, the sights weren't even adjustable; they were just kind of welded on by the end of the war.
Yeah.
You had the M3 grease gun. So there really hadn't been anything quite like this. It was, I mean, the Czech gun was there, but this kind of refined that a little bit. The sights were definitely usable. It was accurate. It was reliable.
Well, that's something that degraded over the evolution of the submachine gun as well, were the sights, because you had, the sights were more adjustable on some of the earlier models, and then as you get as we progress, and they're trying to cheapen them and make them easier to produce, cheaper to produce. The sights are some of the things that suffered as well. But the Uzis are, like you said, they're a lot better than the Thompson submachine gun.
They work well. They have a flip sight. One's for long distance. It's kind of like the old M16 sight. You have a kind of a near sight like for 100 and in, and then you have a flip sight that gave you distance, and you could engage targets out at distance. Now, I've only taken it out to maybe 100 yards. I haven't really gone anything beyond that. But you can absolutely hit with it at distance with the 10-inch barrel for sure. It did a pretty good job.
So a great website for you lead heads to go as we're talking about this. If you want to go to imfdb.org, I think it's the Internet Movie Firearms Database. They've got really good pictures of all the different models and whatnot there.
Yep, there's the different older stock on there. That suppressor, they had one. It replaced the barrel nut, and what you did was you pulled the barrel nut off, and then you attached the suppressor on. Was the barrel nut and it screwed it on. That one was more of a flush fit. That's not. I think that's a different version.
That one is.
I'm talking about, but they got pretty creative with it.
It's got a psionic suppressor on it. It says. So
that's not the one that they had in Israel. Yeah, it's a little different from that one.
So let's talk about how the Uzi operates, and that'll get into Brian's question that he was getting to earlier there.
Absolutely. So the original Uzi, back in the day, there was the easiest way to make a submachine gun was an open bolt system. It was just a more efficient, cheaper way to produce a gun. The Sterling, the Sten, the Schmeitzer, the Thompson, all of them fired from an open bolt. What that meant was when you loaded the magazine, you cocked the bolt to the rear. Okay, when you press the trigger, the entire bolt comes forward, and when it comes forward, it immediately fires. Kind of like a belt-fed machine gun, right? That's an open bolt system as well. So it would come forward, it would fire, and then when you let go of the trigger to stop firing, it would literally just hold the bolt to the rear. It holds it back. So that's what an open bolt system is. It's completely different from the way you might think of with an AK. With an AK, the bolt's forward, you drop a hammer hits the firing pin, that's what starts the ignition, and then the gun's off and running. And that's not the way this works at all. Open bolts are opposite of the way you think. The unique thing about the Uzi Open Bolt, there was two things. The bolt actually went forward of the chamber. It's a huge hunk of steel in there. And because of that, because it went forward of the chamber a little bit, it really made that huge metal piece and that's a straight blowback, meaning it uses the weight of the bolt to delay the unlocking. That's why it's a straight blowback system. But that bolt being so far forward made it actually really easy to control, and it was a really good setup. That's perfect animation right there. And that's, if you look at the Uzi bolt, you can see how far forward it goes past the chamber when it's closed.
So for you listeners on our podcast, not watching the video, you can go to 3D Gunner YouTube channel, and he's got a great animation of the action of the Uzi.
Yeah. So the other thing that they did on the Uzi is it had a ratcheting system on the top. So the danger with a open bolt is if you're cocking it and you let go of the charging handle before you've engaged the sear, the bolt will fall and it will fire, right? So the finger doesn't have to be on the trigger for that to happen. The Uzi has a ratchet in it, meaning you pull it back. If you let go of the bolt too soon, it will catch the bolt. It won't let it go forward. So you have to get it all the way back to the sear point, and then it'll allow you to fire the weapon. So they knew they had, a conscript military, and they're trying to, engage, put these safeties in the gun to make it easier for these guys to use it. Because let's face it, if you're not familiar with weapons in general, an open bolt is kind of a tougher thing to get into. And that's
same philosophy behind the AK. Making it as easy as possible for the conscript soldiers
to. As easy as possible. Yes.
Yeah. Not operation wise, but yeah.
Correct.
Philosophy of use wise.
And that's why they did the grip safety on the back of it. The idea was you had to engage it, disengage. You had to have positive contact with the weapon to control it. And they were trying to do all kinds of things to mitigate that. It's ironic because that philosophy in the Uzi carries over to the other open bolt gun that they have in Israel, which is the Negev. The Negev has the same on a belt fit, same ratcheting system. You have to get it all the way back to the rear. If you lose control of the bolt at any point in time, it'll catch it and won't let the weapon fire.
Oh, wow.
So they carried the philosophy from the Uzi into the Negev. There's a lot of things in the modern guns you'll see that carry over from that initial, we have a conscript military philosophy. Not that they're not well trained. It's just, 18-year-old kids.
Just to mitigate negligent discharges, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly correct. They
don't want to shoot their own troops.
That was a big concern, especially because they were young. They all spend 3 years in the military. The men do, and the women spend 2 years in the military. So it's mandatory. You've got to go. Now there's ways to get out of it, but for the most part they have to serve. And not everybody's a line infantry guy. You have to have support personnel too. But they're trying to get them up to speed as fast as possible. And these are, think about it, coming out of high school. Okay, here you go. This is what you're going to carry now. You want to make sure, and they carry it all over the place all the time. Make sure that they don't have an accident with it. So
now you guys have evolved the Uzi in your newer versions to where it's not the hold open bolt. You've got the closed bolt on.
They changed it.
Some of your newer versions of that, and we'll talk about that coming up. But let's talk about the standard Uzi, the parts. So we talked about the grip safety. We talked about the bolt. Talk about the sights a little bit more, and then the charging handle that you have is a top charging handle.
Correct. Yeah. So they had two versions of the top charging handle, and I don't know if you could pull it up on your other one, but the Uzi A that had the wood stock on it, it looked like a button on the top. It was super, super small. The one that you see in the movies all the time, I'm trying to see if I could see one there. That's kind of small for me. No, I'm not seeing it on there. There's a bunch of variations there, but not the one with the button. So it was
more down here.
Yeah, it was super small. It wasn't very pronounced. The ones that you're seeing here are very pronounced, and there's a slot cut in the middle of the charging handle where you can still see the front sight. So that's why that slot's there. So you can charge the gun, but you can see through the charging handle at the front sight and then shoot. The original one of the complaints was that it was very difficult to actuate the charging handle. So they had to fix that. And then obviously later on, by the time Entebbe's coming about, they got rid of most of the wood stocks and they went to the the stock that folded out. That was one of the key changes that they did. So
I was trying to find an example of that. I can't find it.
Yeah, no, they're out there. I've seen pictures of it. We have one. I'll take you to the factory in Israel. But if you go to the factory in Israel, they have, this a Sten gun.
Let's go. There. I'm ready.
And they have, man, I'm up for. Well, not right now. You probably can't fly into Ben Gurion currently.
Well, yeah, they're in a little turmoil right now.
There's a thing going on. Yeah, it's kicking off. We got a lot of friends over there too, so we hope they're okay.
Hummus is attacking.
So, if you go in the one of the showrooms there, they have the old Uzi and it's got the old charging handle on it. It was kind of hard to get to, so they went to the more pronounced one that you're seeing on almost every Uzi you see now, Uzi B version. So it evolved even when it was being made. The Uzi it was made under license too. Israel wasn't the only one to make it. There were countries that copied it illegally.
China,
and
one of those. Croatia also.
Yeah, Croatia did too.
Oh, that's
okay. FN bought it on or built it on license. The Germans before the MP5, they got into, was it Project 64? They actually had Uzis as well. There was 10 million by the time it was fully done, there was 10 million Uzis around the world. It was one of the most prolific submachine
It's the
guns
most
ever.
produced submachine gun ever, from
Yes.
what I've read. I don't think there's one that's
Nope.
compared to it yet.
No, I agree. I think that's correct. Mm-hmm.
So that should bring us to, well, let's talk about the magazine also. We haven't talked about the magazine. So,
Sure.
Uzi at the time, the grip fed magazines.
So this
So the
is
design allowed them to do that.
Yeah, this is a modern Uzi magazine because it's got an extra cutout in it, and we'll talk about that later. But this will fit in the old Uzi, and it had a stop on the bottom of it, and there's a little slot cut in the bottom. And this is it's a philosophy thing, so it's a European design. It was very common back then to have a latch at the bottom of the magazine, so you kept the magazine. So the soldiers, you can't think like we do now. Like we do a reload, we chuck mags on the ground and we move on, right?
Right.
For a military dude, this is an asset. They reload this. They get ammunition, they don't get magazines. So the old magazine had a latch on the bottom that you push the button, you ripped it, and you kept it. And this one will still do that. It'll feed into the old Uzi right now. And they had a 32 round magazine, which was pretty long. This is a 25 rounder, which is a bit more practical. It's not quite as, if you're going into prone positions and things like that, it's not hanging down quite as much. Obviously, you lose a little bit of ammo. And the newer version, how you have a new Uzi mag, is we got to have an extra cut. That's all it is. It's the same design, really.
What's the extra cut for?
So the newer Uzi doesn't use the bottom latch anymore. That went away. That was another complaint because now they drop magazines. So there's a magazine release button like what you would see
for the
on
index
a pistol. Yeah, right here where my thumb is. I can just drop it like a regular mag. Right. So, if I'm doing a reload, essentially, I can run this like a regular pistol if I need to. Just hit the button, drop it, load, and then charge, and then you're good to go.
Because the original one, the mag release is at the bottom of the grip.
Rip it out, rip a new one in, reach over the top, and charge it. That's how you reload it. That's exactly right. The top charge was kind of interesting too, because if you look at the old Galileo, like the 1980s Galileo, what did you see? You had an upturned charging handle. And that was inspired by the Uzi, because how you
really?
reload.
Okay.
Yeah. That was one of the reasons. Think about it. If you had an AK, you have to either roll the gun up, roll the gun right, or pull your shooting hand off to charge it. Well, they'd already established this, technique of reaching over the top and racking the action, right? So the idea was if you had a Galileo and you reloaded, you would do the same thing. You rock the mag in, you reach up over the top, something that they knew how to do with an Uzi, and you would rack it with your hand and load the weapon. So it kind of carried over on the old Galileo, not the new one.
Yeah. So here's a picture, if you're watching the video, of the mag release he's talking about. It's at the bottom of the grip, and then the stop that was on the magazine. See those two little, I don't know what you call them, stops, I guess.
Yeah.
Nipples.
Stop. Nipples.
Nipples. I don't know.
Sure. No, it's just a ledge. That's all it is. Magazine ledge.
There you
Stop.
go, ledge. I like that. That's a little more professional sounding. I like that.
But I'm trying to be, but I don't have to be. Whatever. It's all.
So that brings us to, Brian, have you been keeping up on our little flow chart there?
I was having an ADD moment looking at parts kits on Gunbroker, and I'm here to tell you I'm building me an Uzi.
Oh, yeah?
Well, that's going to be one of our questions. I think we've got several questions on it, so we'll talk about that. That's good, though. That's a build-up to what's to come.
I'll get away from squirrel chasing and hop back on.
Did we answer your original question?
Kinda, sorta. I think it looks to me as if some open bolt machine guns out there, the firing pin is actually a feature of the bolt face. Is that correct?
That's true.
So on the animation that we saw there of the Uzi, the extractor becomes engaged well before the round is in battery. And so it would strike me that the firing pin is unlikely to be protruding, and that it somehow gets activated through sort of an interlocking system. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind talking about that very briefly.
Is it a fixed pin?
It's a fixed pin. It's, believe it or not, it's just enough where once it gets in, it taps it and it fires it.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's not much. It's just enough to get it going. Neat.
And in terms of, the equivalent of a light primer strike, about, how many fail to combust events have you had in your time running with a system like that?
No, you really don't. The only thing I've ever had is sometimes a feeding issue, and that has to do sometimes with the old magazines or magazine springs not keeping up.
Well,
but
sure.
Be honest with you, the thing, if you look at the mass of that bolt and the spring that's pushing it, it's known for its reliability because of that.
Yeah, sure.
Just because of the mass of it. Now, that's not to say, here's the bad thing about open bolt systems. There's one huge disadvantage to it, especially if you're in the desert, is for the weapon to operate, obviously the bolt's open, so that allows dirt to get in the gun. Now, they would not typically just carry it with it locked to the rear. It would be safety off, bolt forward on an empty chamber. And when they had an issue, they'd rack it and then start shooting.
Is it possible that Israeli carry comes from that functionality of the Uzi? As I understand it, the Israeli manual of arms on, say, a Glock would be to not carry one in the pipe and to rack the gun at sign of threat.
So that had to do more with the pistols they were issued back then. It was the Browning high power, which is really designed to be carried, British rule, right? So they had a lot of Browning high powers, and that was a weapon that was designed to be carried cocked and locked. And they were not comfortable with that, especially not everybody got a pistol, so officers would have them maybe, or guy on a machine gun or a belt fed of some kind, he might get a pistol, and they didn't have a lot of training in it. So it was another one of those things that, leave the hammer down, leave the chamber empty. When you bring it up, you're going to rack it and then shoot. And that was the idea behind that. And it carried over for, like, they have Glocks now, which is designed to be carried with a round in the chamber. Mm-hmm. And there are units doing that now, just so you know. It's not every unit does that. The line units might do that, but not, Sarah Metcalf, they're going to carry a round in the chamber. Those guys, Yamam, which is like their HRT, they kind of shoot the way we do now, and they run around in the chamber. They're not all like that. A lot of the Israeli guys that I know that were SF, that carried concealed or whatever, there was a round in the chamber. They didn't do the racking thing as they came out, like what you're thinking of.
Got it. Naively, there's a I think it's on Netflix. There's an Israeli show called Fauda.
I know it.
It's legit, and it's about a tier 1 counter-terror unit for those that haven't seen it, and there are several scenes where the main protagonist is practicing. The amount of times he racks the slide is just insane, and it's wonderful to know that is Hollywood theatrics and not what's actually going on there now, because I just grit my teeth every time I see those scenes. It's like, good Lord, you're wearing out your slide.
Is that a subtitled TV show? I'm assuming
it is. Some of it, yeah.
And it's really great. Like
I've seen it, but I've never watched it because it looked like it was going to be subtitles, and I hate subtitles. But I did watch one last night that was subtitles, and it was pretty good too.
Yeah, you do have to read your way through a lot of it. However, it's really cool to see an Israeli take on Israel, and they give a fairly compelling case to the Palestinian terrorists. They give the devil his due. And that's so uncommon to see in general, especially, and I wouldn't have expected it with Israel, because the propaganda against Israel is so strong that I wouldn't have expected that. And so it's just a really surprising series in a number of ways, and the action is pretty legit. Like
So,
it's
so
fairly.
are they using Uzis in that?
Yeah, they used the Uzi Pro in a couple of them,
Okay.
and they used the Tavor, the Dan rifle, which is our precision rifle, 338 Lapua. They had that in there, but they used the Glock. They used the hell out of the Glock, really.
Mhm.
So, but the interesting thing about all those actors in that show is they're all Israeli.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the ironic thing, this is going to be interesting.
So the most of them have been in the military. Then I would say the
all
majority
of
of
them
those.
yeah, all of them have been.
Unless
but
they did that one thing that they can do to not serve.
to opt out. Yeah, there are certain. I guess it's very hard to do, but there's ways to opt out, but it's very rare. The most Israelis, if you're like most of the guys I work with, I say, okay, you're Jewish and what? Because most Israelis aren't pure Jew per se, right? Like the guy I work with, he's Polish and Jewish. One of the other guys I work with, who is basically my job in Israel, he was Egyptian Jewish. It's very common. One of the guys, the guys that I work with, another guy I work with over there, he's Persian Jewish. So
Oh wow.
it's diaspora, right? They got spread all over the world, so they have all this, blood that's there. But it's a Jewish culture. It's their heritage. It's definitely in their lineage. It's in their blood. But there's something else, and they frequently speak. A lot of the guys I know, they'll speak 3 languages, 4 languages, Arabic fluently. They grew up with Palestinian friends. I'll never forget, we were in Jerusalem, and we go to this one place to eat lunch or whatever, and I'm with my guys, and we sit down, and he starts speaking Arabic, and the guy comes over and starts talking Arabic and putting the food out, and I go, we're good? He goes, I've known him since I was a kid. This place is awesome. I'm like, okay. But there's a lot of that there. That's the ironic thing that you're not seeing is there are a lot of them that they get along. They don't care. They just want to live and have families and jobs and lives, and they don't want any of this crap that's going on over there. So it's pretty sad right now.
Yeah, with all the diaspora there, I may have some you Israel files out there. Forgive me for me getting
Israel
this
files.
wrong, but it's my understanding that modern Hebrew is a fairly new language, and that it was knitted together from Yiddish, which is sort of the language of the diaspora. And there's Old Hebrew, obviously, that's a very set thing. But after everybody got scattered and then came back together, there are a couple different dialects of Yiddish that they kind of knitted together to get modern Hebrew. And so we don't think about it, but Israel's only about 70 years old. 75, something like that.
1948. Yeah, that's it.
1948 when they started designing the Uzi.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So there's a I don't know how true this is, but there's a story.
A country that was designed around a gun. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it's a country designed around a gun. Kind of looks like it a little bit, but they were making it when the British were still there. They actually started designing it when the British were still there. So they were trying to drive the British out. They didn't want the British there. There were actually 2 primary groups that were essentially trying to oust them. It was the end of colonialism. That's what it came down to. And the British finally relented and they left. But there was a story that they were manufacturing weapons and doing things like that, and that they did it at a British laundromat because they had it underground and they were building things. And they were trying to find it, but the Brits would come in and it kind of hid the sound of everything going on underneath, and kind of worked out. So that's one of the lures I heard when I was over there. I'm like, seriously? They're like, yeah, we
That's
were
cool.
Sneaky. I was like, okay.
Well, they had to be,
Yeah, they had to be. They absolutely had to be.
Yeah.
So
we're talking pop culture. And Brian mentioned that Netflix show. What was it called? Fauda.
Fauda.
So back in my youth, I grew up in the 80s, and
so did I.
The Terminator. You remember this? You remember this scene?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you guys see this?
I could see it. I can't hear it, but I can see it.
So,
hey, buddy, only what you see in the case. Yeah.
One of these is ideal for home defense.
The Uzi 9mm.
So,
Yep.
Which will it be? All of them.
Spots
It's
12.
early today. It's, 15
I love that. Love that movie,
I'm gonna
Terminator.
close early today. Yep.
Yeah, he's like, I may close early today. And then, of
Yeah,
course, this scene,
Yeah.
unforgettable,
This is Reagan. I remember when this happened.
the Reagan assassination attempt.
Yeah, John Hinckley.
John Hinckley Jr. Shots firing out. They tackle him here. And then watch over here to this side.
Yep.
You got
Brady's down.
Brady's
There
down.
it
There
is.
he is right there. See him with the
old
Uzi?
Yep.
Popped it out of his briefcase. He's going to come back over here. There he is. He's deploying the stock right now. He doesn't know you got to pop it. Just hit it, dude. Hit it.
Yeah, you got to smack it.
Just got to
That's
smack
all
it. There you go. He got it out.
Yep. Secret Service had that gun for a long time.
Had up until the 90s.
I think so. I think that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
had up
correct.
until the 90s where they replaced it with the, I think the MP7.
I don't think it was the 7. I know they had the MP5 for a while, the K and the PDW, but
Yeah.
I thought the MP7 came a little bit later because the
May have
MP7
been.
was I know they have it now, but I can't remember when they brought that in. But yeah, there's the old. I remember seeing that scene, and I'm like, holy cow, an old school Uzi.
Yeah. I mean, that's famous. Got the dude with the Uzi. That's kind of one of the things that put it on the map here in America was that incident there. But it's been in movies, TV shows, video games. Call of Duty. If you're a Call of Duty player, they've got the Uzis and the different variants. In the Call of Duties, Rainbow Six. But there's just
Bad guys and good guys alike use it. From
absolutely.
Intent to the PLO in the 70s, they used it. So
If you go on that IMFDB, you can go through and it tells you all. I mean, just scanning through. These are all the movies, TV shows.
that's movies.
Yeah, this is movies that it's in.
Holy cow, Congo.
It tells you the movie, the actor that was using it. Patriot Games, that was a good one. That's Jack Ryan.
Yep.
The Jack Ryan thing.
Sean Bean had one too. Yep. Wow. No, it's pretty cool, but eventually it had to change though. It couldn't stay the way it was.
Then we get to modern day. Tenet, the movie Tenet, 2020 came out 2020. There's in that Extraction, which I think that's a Netflix. Isn't that a Netflix?
That was Netflix. Yep. That was a good movie.
Thor, wasn't Thor in that?
Correct.
Yeah. The Bangladesh police are using it.
We also had we had a Tavor in that one too.
Oh, you did?
Tavor. Yep. The good guys when they're on the bridge and he's trying to get out. You can see one of the guys trying to help Thor out, and he rips out the old Tavor SAR.
Oh, nice.
So he's blasting away with that. So we had a couple in there, cameos.
Now, do you guys work with the movie production companies for that, or do you work with a third-party company like we had Leviathan Group on not too long ago, and that's something that they do, big is help movies get the guns and background stuff, equipment.
So the one that comes to my mind, yes, we do. They just buy the weapons and then they modify them because they're manufacturers, so they can just change the gun. But ISS in California, the guy who has the show Hollywood Guns,
yeah.
Friends with him. He's a cool guy. But
what's his name? Is it Rock?
damn
It's
it.
not Rock, is it? Is that Rock?
No, God Almighty, it's killing me because we just texted back and forth yesterday, and now it's one of those moments when you're on.
Yeah, I know Rock.
Larry Zanoff, thank you, Jesus.
Who?
Larry Zanoff.
Larry Zanoff. Okay, Larry. Yeah. Does he
Larry,
own that?
I think he does. Yeah, he does.
Okay.
That's his company. It's ISS.
Okay, I just
And
thought he worked there.
No, I thought he owned it, but I don't.
He
I don't
may.
know.
I remember that show. I love that show, and Larry was always kind of the genius.
Yep.
Silent genius, kind of thing.
Super nice guy. Extremely well versed in a lot of different things, but
that
they're
IDF course that I told you that I took?
Say again?
Remember the we talked off air about the IDF course that I took, the
Yeah.
training course. Larry was my roommate when I did that.
Larry's out, no kidding.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a small world.
yeah.
I'll have to
So
tell him that next time I call him.
Larry and I trained together. Yeah,
That's funny. He's a good guy. I really like him.
yeah. He was great. Yeah. Once he warmed up to, he's kind of one of those that's got to, he's got to fill you out before he starts opening up, kind of deal. But
Yeah.
once he opened up, though, he was cool.
No, he hit me. I don't know. We hit it off pretty well. We've been talking. I met him through IWI at SHOT Show like 4 years ago or 5 years ago or something like that. And we just stayed in contact. He's always been like, hey, I need parts for it's a war or something like that. I'm like, yeah, we'll figure it out, we'll get it out to you.
Yeah.
But he's a sharp guy. He's a good guy. But he's got season 5 filming now.
Oh, they do? Good.
You'll see that show again. He's back.
I was hoping so because when we did the course, they were doing the show and I didn't know because I wasn't watching it then, so I didn't know him. I didn't know that he was on that show. I didn't know he was somebody.
He doesn't act like it.
No, he's very unassuming and yeah, just like a regular old Joe. Yeah, he's a good dude. Good old Larry. But yeah, the Uzi, very iconic in pop culture. Songs. There's rappers that call themselves Uzi.
So Benjamin Netanyahu and his brother, when they were in Entebbe, were using them. I know that for a fact. That was one of the weapons that they used there for the Entebbe raid.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're using them right now?
No, the Uzi's pretty much, that version of the Uzi is done. The Uzi Pro is being used currently in very limited quantities. They don't use it a lot. But matter of fact, they don't even have the machinery to make the old Uzi.
Oh, really?
No, they don't. We imported, I could talk about this now, I guess, but we imported the last 31 old Uzis for a specific contract ever about 3 years ago. Got to touch it. I should have shot it. I didn't. We didn't test fire it. They were test fired in Israel and sent them on to the client. But they were the last 31 ever imported into the country. They had to refurbish them, go in, get parts, and we let the client know, just so you know, these are not new, but they will be like new by the time you get them. And they were. They looked 6 magazines and the packaging just like, factory fresh. I was like, oh my God, 31 of them. This is beautiful.
Did you guys do the work on that, or did you subcontract that out?
They did it. Israel did it. The whole thing.
Very nice.
Did it for us. And they're like, we'll never do this again.
Never say never. Come on, guys. Never say never.
The client needed them. We helped them out. And
well, let's talk about the modern day. What you guys are doing with the Uzi now at IWI.
So
you made a lot of changes to it.
A lot of changes. And it had to do with feedback. So again, back then you didn't worry about optics. They didn't have that kind of thing. The top charging handle went away, and on the Uzi Pro, it went to the side, like what you're seeing here. So get rid of the magazine here. But yeah, it's now on the side. It's a side charging system. It does reciprocate when you shoot, though, when you fire it. But fortunately, it's not near your hand, so you're not really worried about it. It's not an issue. Kind of like an AK, right? Mm-hmm. Shoot an AK. Nobody complains about the charging handle moving. It's out of the way. It's in the right spot. Because they moved it to the side, they were able to put a pick rail on top, and now you can mount optics on top. Now,
optics of your choice.
Optics of your choice. Height of your choice. Now, it still disassembles in a very similar way to the old Uzi. You push a button and the top cover comes off.
Come a little more center with that.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine. Yep.
Okay. So the top cover kind of rotates off. There's a lever at the back, and that's what takes it apart. And the old Uzi was the same way. That really never changed. If you're going to look at this, where the inspiration from this size came from, it's the micro Uzi. There was the mini Uzi in 1980. Then there was the micro Uzi. It came out in 1983. The cyclic rate on that thing was like 1,200 rounds, 1,300 rounds. It was ridiculous. It was quick.
And we didn't talk about that real quick. So the original one was around 600 rounds per minute. Very manageable. Easy going, easy to shoot.
Right.
So now, and as it progressed and it's getting smaller.
It gets smaller, it gets faster.
It gets faster. It gets a lot faster.
The mini was like 900 to 1,000. I shot one of those. I remember blasting away with that thing. and you couldn't really get twos. It was you touch the trigger, you get threes,
Yeah.
fours out of it. They went further on it on that version. They had two vents cut in the barrel to act as a compensator, and it's ironic because they were cut high and right. Because where does the gun climb? It climbs high and right. If you learn to shoot a submachine gun, and I know you're pretty well versed, you've probably been to some schools. You actually center up or square it behind a submachine gun. You don't want to blade your body. Well, Israelis blade their body when they shoot, so the gun climbed high and right because there's no resistance to the recoil. So they cut two vents in the front of it on the micro and the mini to try and compensate for the gun going high and right. And it sort of works, but at 1,200 rounds a minute, whatever.
Right.
Who knows? So
they need to put an anchor on the barrel to hold it down.
Yeah, they put a vertical foregrip finally on the Uzi Pro. It folded down, so you could grab it, and you could hold on to it. And this one has the pick rail on it, but the Uzi Pro, it actually has a slanted forend. It looks almost like a cutlass, like what you would see on a bore. It comes up, and they have these removable front rails that come off. And they actually made a round rail and a suppressor that went inside the round rail. And it gave you space for mounting things, so you could attach things to it.
Right.
And that one is slick as hell. It's actually pretty cool because it looks almost like an SD or internally suppressed, but it's not, obviously. But it does a pretty good job. Because they were able to get rid of the top, you obviously have the optics. They still left the sights on it. Now, I'll be honest with you, the sights on this are when you have a brace, your face is so close to the rear sight. I'll be honest with you, it's pretty blurry. It's very difficult to use.
And to be honest, also, I mean, if you're using one of these, you're not really going for accuracy. It's close quarter, you're right there, and it's just like you're pointing a finger kind of deal,
Almost. I would tell you right now that I can hit 150 yards with this thing.
Yeah, but that's not going to be your primary to go long distance with. Its
not
primary use, what I'm saying is primary use
50 yards an inch.
is to get somebody out of your face quick. And
yeah, it's 50 yards and in, or that's what most sub guns are designed for. Is kind of close, and it is a select
but that is
box.
impressive that you can hit accurate at 150 with that.
With
how long is that barrel?
Oh, it's like 4 inches. Hang on, pull it out. Make that. There you go. That's it.
That's it. That's the barrel. Holy
that's
cow.
The barrel. That's it. Now the new ones that we're bringing in, just the civilian version, just for your edification, are threaded.
Okay.
There's no threading on this one. The one I was alluding to before, on the old Uzi, the Israeli suppressor, I think it was B&T made it for them. They have a relationship with B&T. It replaced the nut, the barrel nut that screws on, that holds it all together. It actually replaced the nut, and the suppressor just went right on the barrel, and boom, you got a can. And it was a way to attach it securely, and you were good to go. So it was a very simple way to do it.
So the original Uzi was 10-inch. It had a 10-inch barrel, and then you went down to the mini, and the mini has, what was it, like 7-inch?
7 inches or something like that.
7-inch, and then you get down to the micro.
Yes.
Is that considered a micro, the one you have there?
Yeah, that's what this body, if you want to look at the length of it and the design of it and the feel of it, it's a micro is what this is based on, the super small guy. It's very little.
There you go. Hold it up a little bit. Down just a little. Just hold it down. There you go. Right there. Perfect.
I'm just gonna move it around.
Gun porn, man. We got to have the whole thing. I want to see the bottom and everything.
Holding out, freaking, the baby or something like that. Yeah, it's this is more like the micro Uzi. They actually on the micro on the new, they call it the Uzi Pro. It actually has a real legit stock with the comb height riser, and that was one of the complaints of the mini and the micro is this. And if you ever shot it, it was not fun. Like if your face hit that while you were shooting.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
It smarted a little bit, yeah.
Get some scrapes.
So, and it slid. So it has a comb height riser and a legit stock. And you can still, you just pop it. The hinge is just like this one. And you can fold it and you can shoot it from the folded position. So if you had to. Not this one. The stock you can.
Now,
This
can
one,
you mag
Right.
dump that with one hand? One handed?
full auto? No, I wouldn't do that.
You're gonna
Not. It's gonna climb a little bit. I don't want to have that incident like what happened in Arizona where the kid killed the.
Yeah, that was horrible. Yeah.
That was an Uzi. That was a mini Uzi.
Oh,
I
it
think.
was. Okay.
It was an Uzi, and that was a mistake that was his fault.
Yeah, I
hate to
mean, obviously,
speak
yeah.
bad, but that was a bad decision. It was just not right.
Nope.
I feel bad for the kid more than anything else. So
Yeah.
the other thing they got rid of was, again, like we alluded to earlier, is they went with the magazine release button. Sorry, magazine release button. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Right there, where you can actually hit the button with your thumb.
Americanized it.
They Americanized it, and that's because they're doing this with pistols over there now, right? They have Glocks, they have all kinds of other things. So
All right.
why do the latch anymore when you can just have them do one thing and be done with it?
ASP
So-
red gun right here for all your training needs.
Nice.
I think they have Uzis too. I'm not sure.
Do they?
I think they do.
For real?
I don't know. They might. Have to ask.
Okay.
They got a big selection.
So one of the most common questions that we got asked about this guy at almost any show, after can I own that? Is how do you shoot it? Because this version, like I said, the Uzi Pro has it looks like a cutlass that you can put your hand on, and this one you don't have the cutlass. So the idea behind this, if you're going to shoot it,
Wait, I got a
is-
picture of that. Let me.
you grab it just like a pistol. Just put your hands. There you go. Right, there you go.
Is the cutlass a removable thing, or is that one that's built
No,
into it? It's built that way.
It's built that way, but the vertical foregrip that hangs down is part of it. It's part of the cutlass. So if you go to the IWI,
There it is. Is that it?
That's it right there. Perfect. So if you can make that bigger,
That's what she said.
yeah. buddy.
Hold on, I got a video playing there. That's
So you can see the cutlass, and you can see underneath the very front of it, where under the barrel, keep going up right there.
oh, that
That's
folds
the
out.
grip that folds out.
Okay.
Mhm.
Interesting.
And then if you go to the stock area, there's a button at the rear of the stock. Keep going back where it gets fat right there. Keep forward, down, forward, and a little bit right there where that round thing is. If you push that button forward more, just a hair, right there. If you push that button in there, there's a comb height. It pops up so you can change the height of the stock, which is pretty.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it made it better. And even at 1,200 rounds a minute, that one you can control. That front piece there with the hook that hangs over to protect your hand with the pick rail, that all comes off. And you can replace. Yeah, that whole thing. There's a right above where the grip comes down. There's a little. It looks like a Glock disassembly lever. You pull that down and it slides off the front.
That little thing right there.
Yep, that's exactly it. You're right on it. Yep, good. You can put the round deal on it and then internally suppress it. So it just makes it more better.
And what do you call this formation here? This
I call that a cutlass.
cutlass. Okay.
If I'm joking
Just
around,
like
I'll call
the sword that protects the hand.
yeah, or staple gun, whatever.
Staple gun. It
Staple
kind
gun.
of looks like a nail gun. Yeah.
It kind of looks like a nail gun. That's exactly right.
It kind
You
of.
would be correct.
I like that.
Yeah.
Very
But yeah,
cool.
this is the one that's available for use now currently, and
that's the Uzi Pro.
Uzi Pro. Mm-hmm.
Now, are you
And get
still
a box.
making the 10-inch? The 10-inch Uzis, 10-inch
Nope.
barrel.
They don't make any of them
So is this the only one they're producing right now?
for the U.S. market? Yes, this is it currently.
Okay.
And they, like I said, they've eliminated all other versions of the Uzi. It's this one and then the full auto one that you had a picture of a second ago. That's what they have, and that's what they're using.
So full auto, they're not making a semi-auto in the one I shot. Is that what you're saying?
No, not anymore. So the semi-auto one that you're thinking of that was imported, they stopped importing it. I want to say around 86 or so. It was Action Arms. They brought it in from Philadelphia. And when you saw that one, it had
16-inch barrel.
a 16-inch barrel that hung out. I had one.
Yeah. They had like a fake barrel
Suppressor deal.
that it came with, that I shipped with, but then you take that out and put the real barrel in.
Correct.
Kind of
I SBR'd mine because I wanted it to look like an Uzi.
Yeah.
But that one was a closed bolt system. It's similar to what this is.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll notice on your full auto Uzi, you only had one recoil spring that ran down the bolt carrier itself.
Right.
And this one has two. The second one is the striker spring.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, and the new one's similar to this, like the full auto. So
you've got a floating firing pin on this one, or is it a fixed firing pin also?
No, it's a striker, is how this one works, and that's how the Action Arms one you had there was. So it's if you pull it apart here,
hold it up higher.
Two pieces. Yeah, there we go. This is the firing pin here. It acts as a striker underneath, and as a matter of fact, you can pull it out, and there's the firing pin.
Firing pin right there.
And you can actually just remove the firing pin. So there it is. So when it's in the forward position, this piece right here is cocked to the rear, right? And then when you press, sorry, let me turn it up that way. There you go. It's cocked to the rear. And when you pull the trigger, it lets this go forward, and that's what fires inside the bolt itself. That's why there's two holes back there, and everything kind of lines up like, hang on.
Interesting.
So that's how it is when it's in the cock position. It's kind of back just about that far.
Yeah.
And then it'll ignite, it'll fire when you drop the striker, and then boom, it's off and running. That's all there is to it. And you'll notice that the block of steel isn't quite as big.
Mm-hmm.
It still hangs a little bit farther forward, but it's a straight blowback system. It's just as simple as it can be, but it works.
Very cool.
Yep. It's pretty
Ryan, you have any
interesting.
questions? You just awestruck there.
And there's
I'm loving it.
right there. There's not much to it.
No, there isn't. The commonalities to the AK are really striking in philosophy as much as anything. But the sheet metal, the way the barrel is just a pipe. It's so simple, and so there's a lot to love about this architecture and a lot to learn from it. Tom, you'll probably not be aware, most people aren't, of what we named our company after, but Occam's razor, if you've ever heard of that.
I have.
All things being equal, the simplest answer is the best one. And that thing is all kinds of beautiful from that standpoint, very little to fail. And the way that the bolt carrier, as it were, or the bolt, wraps around the barrel itself, that's really clever. Like, there's a whole bunch of sort of secondary mitigation of things going bad. Well before that round could get ignited, it's already shrouded by both the bolt and the barrel.
Yeah.
There occasionally, like when you shuck a round out of a Glock, it'll ignite, and people that have their hand over the ejection port when they shuck a round out to catch that round, don't have a good time when that happens. No. And so there's that's a really cool architecture there. And yeah, awestruck is the right word for it, Marty.
You just got to think of it in the context of 1947, 48 time frame when they're trying to think this stuff up.
Sure.
And it's, obviously. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No.
Yeah, then obviously things moved on, and it's funny because the MP5 is arguably one of the, it's a more complex version of a submachine gun, but it was one of the better ones. But the Uzi still kind of held its own all through that 70s, 80s time frame. So it's a neat system, no doubt. And it came in 45, 41 Action Express. There were other calibers for it. I saw 145 Uzi in the U.S. It was a U.S. thing, and it was a semi-auto system, and it's very rare. If you find one of those, that's one of the rarest birds ever. So, yeah.
There's 22 versions out. There's the 40s. There's some 40s that were made in the 40 caliber, and then the 41 AE.
Action Express, yeah, that was a very short-lived cartridge, really. They made that for the Jericho as well, or the was it the Jericho or the can't remember if it was the Jericho or the Baby Eagle, but they made a 41 Action Express, and it was imported by, I want to say it was, God almighty, Magnum Research, the same guys that were doing the Desert Eagle and things like that. It was very odd.
I believe it was the Desert Eagle.
Yeah.
The 41 Action Express pistol cartridge developed in 1986 to reproduce the performance of the 41 Magnum police load.
Yeah. It was, we knew back then when we saw it that it probably wasn't going to last. It wasn't going to survive. And
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
In 1988, IMI, which is IWI now, also developed a 9mm Action Express, which was a .41 AE neck down to 9mm. It offered a much larger case capacity than the standard 9mm case, allowing velocities that matched that of the .357 Magnum when loaded with light bullets.
Sounds like the SIG 357, doesn't it?
This move anticipated the parallel development of the .357 SIG from the 40 Smith & Wesson in 1994. Yeah. Very cool.
Pretty interesting. It all ties together.
I mean, we leducate here. This is a show for leducation.
Yeah, it is.
We leducate the unleducated, Tom.
Absolutely.
So, let's go to some of our listener questions now. I want to field some of these questions because we got a lot of questions this time. And I'll start off on Instagram. And while I'm going through and looking at this, Tom, we didn't do this in the beginning. I wanted for you to talk a little bit about your background and kind of where you come from. It's very interesting.
So I was a cop in Arizona. I graduated political science degree.
Poli-sci.
Poli-sci guy and a history minor. That's why when we were talking before, I was like, are you a history guy? I should have double majored and just done history because I really enjoyed it. But I was a cop for 11 years, but I was a SWAT guy and a law enforcement sniper, and I taught CQB and all those things. I taught at the academy. Then I ended up leaving and working for Blackwater, which was back in 2004. Met some interesting, good people, which I still talk to this day back then. I worked for them for about 10 years, actually. And I was already kind of a foreign weapons freak when I was a cop. I had exposure to it through a lot of other folks that were into that. And you just kind of, in Arizona especially, you find each other and then you end up working with all kinds of neat systems, MG34s. And I got to shoot an original Sturmgewehr STG-43. It was the predecessor to the 44.
Nice.
It was like 200 made. And you
got pictures of that, right?
No, I only fired 4 rounds out of it too, by the way, because he couldn't find ammo at the time. It's a very weird cartridge. So when I worked for BW, I worked initially in open enrollment, which is everything from civilian training to law enforcement to military. We did all the specialized training courses. I worked with anti-terrorism assistance. I worked with CNTPO, which is a counter-narco-terrorism program for DOD. And I taught a lot. So I did some intel work. I did counter-assault. I did PSD-related work and a lot of training. And I ended up going to 4 different places officially, Iraq, Afghanistan, West Africa for a while. And
I bet that was
Mexico.
Interesting.
Yeah, West Africa was definitely interesting.
Were you doing narcotic stuff in Mexico?
No, believe it or not, protection of national leaders. So we were training the presidential team down there is what we did.
Oh, okay.
For protection. It was their version of Secret Service. We were spinning them up on tactics, techniques, and procedures that the State Department allowed us to teach them. So that's what we were doing down there. Cool. The narco-terrorism thing, believe it or not, was in Africa.
Oh, it was?
Mm-hmm. Believe it or not. Boko Haram was operating in that area up in northern, right on the border area where I was. But
what kind of guns were they using? FALs?
FALs and G3s.
Okay.
Lots of FALs, lots of G3s, and they had the Beretta Model 12 submachine gun. You remember the one with the vertical foregrip and the magazine goes through the center? It's an open bolt. They had Berettas.
Sweet.
They had a licensed copy of it that they made in Nigeria, believe it or not. But they were Belgian FALs. They were beautiful rifles. is what we had on our base primarily.
Would
So,
love to have one of those.
yeah.
What were they growing opium poppy or what? What was the drug involved?
Opium, they were meth, believe it or not. There was all kinds of stuff that was moving through. Lagos was the primary conduit to the rest of the world where it was leaving from.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys we were working with were NDLEA, which is their version of DEA. And that was their primary focus, was trying to stop it. They have a problem there too. They don't call them, the narcos, they call them barons over there. Here you'd call them something else, obviously, but they were very well connected. It was corrupt. There was a lot of corruption there that they were having to deal with to deal with it, because the narcos over there have a lot of money, just like any narco would. Whether they're Medellin or whatever, it's kind of a similar way of doing business. So they were dealing with that. But the narcotics money would feed terrorism. It would feed Boko Haram. So a lot of that money would cycle back to them. So that was one of the reasons there was a presence there to help those guys stop it.
Right.
So very difficult situation.
Very diverse background there.
That's one of the more compelling reasons that people give against the war on drugs, is how much money it's giving to some really bad people. And it's a complicated thing. There's another show recently on that. Gosh, what was the name? You guys catch that one that was split between Mexico, the U.S., and
Narcos?
It's Narcos.
There's a new one. Oh, dang. Sorry, I'll look it up and get back to you guys on it in a minute here.
Okay.
But there's a really good drug trafficking show that covers between Italy, 999, I think is what it's called.
999, really?
Yeah,
and it is
wild. It's another subtitle one, because it's equal parts mafia, U.S. traffickers, and and then Mexican cartel guys, and this global trade in drugs, for money, for guns, for all the stuff, and it was very interesting. I think for that particular mafia is the Ndrangheta. And it's an interesting show. It was well done. Had a bunch of big names in it.
Is it on Netflix?
I believe so. Yeah.
I'll have to see that.
No, it's not 999. Sorry, 000 spelled out.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. I haven't watched it though.
I haven't watched it. I know that when they filmed Narcos in Mexico, the producer got killed by the cartel down there.
Real life?
For real, yeah, he got killed when they were doing the initial filming, when they were doing Narcos Mexico.
Did they hold him like for ransom or something, or they just killed him?
No, they flat killed him. They were like, when they did Pablo Escobar. I got into that stuff. I read a lot of. I think it's Mark Bowden. He's the guy who did Black Hawk Down and stuff. He did a book called Killing Pablo, and when they were going over Pablo Escobar, the show got a lot right. I mean, they got some things wrong, but. They compiled it together is what they did. They cobbled a bunch of events and they made it one, but they got so close to the kind of the way things were working. I think that when they got to Mexico, I think they just didn't want any part of it. They wanted to try and deter it from even being shown.
Yeah.
That's a good deterrent.
Killing Pablo was an extraordinary book. Like, from what I understand, I loved Black Hawk Down, the book, but from what I understand, there's some arguments about its accuracy in certain aspects. And Killing Pablo, I thought, was the narrative of it. And also, it's very hard to understand what went wrong with Black Hawk Down, because it's so complex. With Killing Pablo, I think he had an easier time drawing the narrative about his life, right? And there's actually, I don't want to mention him because he keeps this anonymous, but as I understand it, there's a firearms instructor in the U.S. that's actually the one that dropped the hammer on Pablo.
Yeah, that's been a rumor for so long, because Delta was there, and they were getting tired of him getting away all the time, and they were like, screw it, and shoot him. And there is a perfect temple shot in the guy.
Tell me off air about that.
Yeah, you know him. I'm almost positive you've met him.
Yeah. I think we're thinking of the same person. So Let's get to our questions here. We got a bunch. Let's roll through these. Start off on Instagram. I gotta have to put my glasses on. Jeez, so small.
So old.
That's what she said. Colomayo. COLOMAIO. Why Uzi over newer PCC? Is it just for nostalgia or still viable today?
I would say.
And PCC is pistol caliber carbine for those who
they're
aren't
talking
up.
about. Yeah, you're talking about the CZs and probably
well,
an argument we made for the MPX.
This would be a pistol caliber carbine.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm holding up the Kel-Tec Sub 2000, 9mm.
Yeah.
This would not be considered a sub gun, right? This would be considered a pistol caliber carbine. It's 16-inch barrel.
Yeah, it's pistol caliber carbine. Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is just a pistol. And the way I like to look at anything like this is, what are you going to use it for? What's its intent? Am I necessarily going to run a match with this? Not really, no. Is it a good defensive system? If you needed something that you could make super small and have a lot of rounds for and attach a light to.
Be a great truck gun, backpack gun.
Yeah, exactly. Dealing with rodents or something
hiking,
like
camping.
That. Exactly. You can still make it quiet. You can put a suppressor on the end of it and make it super quiet. So
you can hunt squirrel with that. Small game.
Exactly. So that's kind of how I look at it. Am I going to run a match with this? Probably not. But have I shot it a bunch, and does it do a bunch of other things that I can hide it, stick it in any bag, and get rid of it? Yes, absolutely. And hence the reason they had the different magazine types, so you could make it even more compact. Do they use it currently in submachine guns? Are a different animal. I would say this too. Let me throw this out. Submachine guns are a different animal in their usage insofar as a pistol round for defensive use in general, in all honesty, is not the best for stopping things. Submachine guns made up for the lack of stopping power by delivering a lot of rounds in a very tight area. So I did quickly. SWAT. Yeah. We ran MP5s, and the idea there was that the 9mm rounds wouldn't go through walls. It would stop quicker. That's actually not true, by the way, but that was what we believed, and that's what we did. Pistol rounds are lousy. Submachine guns, full auto fire, the idea is it makes up for that lack of impact and kinetic energy by delivering a lot of rounds very quickly. So, the Uzi itself in the submachine gun form is good for what it's designed to do. This is good for what it's designed to do. It's a defensive thing. It's a fun thing to shoot. And it's good for all those things you were mentioning, hunting, rodents, defensive purposes. But, am I going to, like I said, it's not necessarily what I would compete with. A competition gun's a different animal, though, isn't it? It's dressed up. It's got a different trigger. It's built to do a certain job. It's a different golf club for.
Maybe we should also differentiate submachine guns versus PCC versus, the other
Well, if I may jump in, Marty, I just bought.
This would be, I guess, a PCC.
It is.
That's right. Or and you get to a PDW, which is, I think, the other one.
Personal defense weapon.
PDW.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I have two girls and a very small statured wife, and they do not train pistol stuff. PPSH is.
I know.
Yeah, pretty hot gun.
PPS 43, baby.
Oh, sorry. Got
43. PPSH 41 had the wood, but man, that's. Dude, that's nice. Sorry, go ahead. Sir.
Polish. Yeah. Squirrel. I told you we chase squirrels here. So for those who are listening, I'm holding up my PPS 43C from Pioneer Arms.
That's nice.
So, I have these very small statured women in the house, and as a defense weapon for them, I got a Ruger PC Charger because you could kind of hold on to it pretty good. The downside is it's real heavy. And so for what it is. And looking at that micro or Uzi Pro, sorry, you guys are calling it the Uzi Pro now?
Uzi Pro.
Looking at that Uzi Pro, that thing looks awesome for a braceable pistol for, the women in your life or smaller framed people, something that's highly reliable and with a simple manual of arms. It's just delicious. Like, there's everything right about that setup.
Delicious. I don't think I've ever heard that term used for an Uzi. I like it.
I'll do you one better and go sexual chocolate.
All right, next question. Iron Lord. He says, the Uzi can be polarizing and misunderstood. Can we get some facts to fight the myth of it just being a bullet hose? So what are some myths that are around the Uzi that we want to bust?
I think the biggest myth that I've seen, and I'm going to refer to the old Uzi, like the one we've been talking mostly about, the Uzi B.
Which I wish you would bring that back.
I know it's a great weapon. Heavy, but it's great. That thing.
Well, with today's technology, you could lighten it up.
Oh, you could, absolutely. You're right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You can absolutely hit it 100 yards with that gun as well with the iron sights. The iron sights on that were built very well. And when it came to controlling, like burst, I can deliver as many rounds in as tight a pattern with that as I could with my MP5. Now, the MP5 is a little lighter shooting, point blank. Has to do with the roller locking block. But that weapon that they used at Entebbe, they were making some pretty decent shots with it at distance. The reason it gets that reputation as being a spray machine is I think it's Hollywood, where, Arnold Schwarzenegger's holding it out and just blah, and of course, the Hollywood holes, there's more holes than rounds being fired, but that's okay, whatever. It looks good. And I think that's where the reputation comes from. So I don't think that's true at all. I think it's actually a very robust, but it's a very accurate weapon. That's why it stayed in service for so long. You'd be surprised what you could do with it. I'll have to get video for you guys. I have access to an Uzi, an old one, and just run some drills with it.
Well, I need to come up with you when you do that, and let's do some live videos for our listeners.
Live,
Hell
Instagram,
yeah.
Whatever.
I'm down with that. Let's see, Brunner, 1981 JPC. Can we get a brief comparison of different variants? Which variants are the most sought after, and why? And that's something we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about the knockoffs, the variants, copies.
So, well, I'll stay within the Uzi itself. I think the most sought after one is the mini Uzi, believe it or not. That they made for a short time, 83 to 86, they imported the mini Uzi in a pistol version, a rifle version, excuse me, that had the long ass barrel on it.
Oh, mini Uzi with a 16-inch barrel?
Yeah, it was dumb. It looked stupid, but
it defeats the purpose, yeah.
That size platform was perfect. If you had that, and if you could get a decent stock on it, everybody liked it a little bit better. It was bigger than the micro. It was a little smaller and lighter than the full size. It's still select fire. It did a really good job. So of all the variants, I would say that is probably the most sought after one. It's a rare bird. It's an extremely rare bird to find.
What would you think something like that would go for these days?
Shoot. If you can find one with the original barrel and all the usual stuff, I'm not even sure. It probably, way it is right now on Gunbroker, probably $3,000 or something like that, $4,000. But
yeah.
I don't know. I would SB on it immediately though, because it looks dumb with that barrel. And they weren't imported with anything but the 16-inch barrel. So if you just chop it without the paperwork, they're going to know that it was chopped. So it's one of those things.
So some other variants, Umarex Uzi. You familiar with that one? The 22 LR.
Yeah, that's right. They copied a lot of guns. I think the Uzi was one of the ones they copied.
Yeah, they did a 22 LR in it. The Croatian Mini Eero submachine gun.
I told you they copied it illegally. Yeah.
So that's an illegal copy there. The is it Manibia M9?
That one I don't know. I don't know that one.
Japanese manufactured machine pistol, based on the Uzi submachine gun, and produced by the MINEBEA Corporation.
Did you know Ruger made a copy of it?
Yeah, it was the, what did they call theirs? The MP7?
No, it wasn't the MP7. I worked at Ruger for a short time after college, and they had the parts for it in the factory where I was. I was a heat treat guy on the pistol side. But they made, if you look up Ruger Uzi, you'll find a version of it that they made.
Well, let's look that up.
It's another one of those. It was short-lived. I don't even know if there's anything out there.
MP9 comes up when I do Ruger Uzi.
Mm.
MP9.
Hang on, let me see.
I can't do. If there's any images.
Do shavings. Hang on a second.
There's a Walther Uzi 22.
Yeah, that's not it. Uzi. Hang on. Ruger Uzi.
And while you're doing that, there's another variant.
Here it is.
Oh,
yeah, Ruger MP9. That's it. That's the copy of it.
So it's the MP9.
MP9. That was
okay.
They copied the basic design of it, and it looked like an Uzi. It didn't have the grip safety on it, and the stock was kind of goofy, but that was the Ruger version of it. They were trying to. It was short-lived as far as I could tell.
Yeah. And then there's an Italian clone. It's the SOCIMI Type 821. Sakimi Type 821 9x19 millimeter. So those are the ones I can find right off.
Yeah.
As far as collectability and sought after, I don't know. We'll go with what you said on the
the mini Uzi, if you can find them. They're hard to get.
Uzi. Let's see. And we talked about calibers. The different
45
calibers.
caliber Uzi too. That will be a rare one to find.
What calibers are Uzis available? That's C. Schaefer Ropic.
Yeah.
Radio shields. How well do they work suppressed? Did it need heavier springs to run with a can, or something like how the MP5 SD were integrally suppressed? And I would love to see an integrally suppressed Uzi, by the way.
Yeah, they sort of did that. Hang on, let me see if I can find it. If you go to IWI.net, small arms, and they had it's sort of internally suppressed, but it's really not. Uzi Pro, there you go. And they did it. Let me see if they can find it. No, they're not showing it. Suppressed Uzi Pro. That thing was kind of cool. They had one there with a vertical foregrip.
Yeah.
Uzi Pro suppressed. Okay, yeah. If you go to Uzi Pro suppressed, and you'll see it, the shroud is what I'm talking about. If you pull that up on yours, you'll see it.
Let me do it.
It's basically that Uzi Pro that I told you about with that round handguard where they brought it in. That's a B&T suppressor. It worked with the military ammo. It's really designed, it likes the hotter ammo anyway, so the suppressor really doesn't bother it too much. It favors the hot military ammo, put it to you that way. So you'll see it.
Is that it?
Yep, there it is.
That one right there. Okay.
So they did that round handguard. They replaced the front of it, and you have that round shroud that goes around the B&T suppressor there. That's the one they made in Israel that they offer.
Gotcha.
And it does work well, and it runs pretty good suppressed. I didn't notice.
There's the raised cheek well you were talking about there too.
That's it, right? Mm-hmm. And that's that button at the back. You push it. It's kind of in the center there, and boom, it pops up, and you can set it to different heights. Depends on what optic you have on top. So that's what makes it kind of badass.
All right, next question. What's the difficulty level for building an Uzi from a parts kit compared to building an AK from a parts kit?
I have no idea. I've never built an Uzi from a parts kit, so I can't answer something I haven't done, put it to you that way.
I only know what feedback on that, Brian?
To me, it looks way more doable than an AK, but I've never touched a parts kit. But I've been geeking out on them while we're talking here because I'm a child of the 80s. I was born in the late 70s, and my first cap gun was that full-size Uzi. And I feel like it is only good and just that I have one as an adult in select fire. And so
Brian will have one.
Weld one of these up, and we can. I'll report back at a future episode. I
bet John has done one.
I'm positive John's done one.
Yeah, John Holton, M13 Industries.
You guys are all children of the 80s, so I'm a child of the 80s. We're kind of in the same era, to be honest with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. G.I. Joe, the 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joes, the Snake Eyes came with the Uzi. Remember that?
Shit, yeah, it did. Yeah.
Yeah. Snake Eyes with the Uzi was badass. Rayo Shields. No, I just asked that. It was the suppressor one. CS, Schaefer, OPK again. What parts are American made on the Uzi to make it 922R compliant?
Oh,
No,
Marty,
it's
do you know
pistol.
that? Yeah, I was gonna see if we could put Marty on the spot on that one, but Tom was too charitable.
Yeah. I was gonna say
It's a pistol. This is all made there. You don't need 922R parts for this.
Well, for I guess the old ones is what they're talking about. The older ones that were imported.
No, there was no 922R parts. That's why they had to stop bringing them in after 86. That's why you can't get those in anymore. They were rifles too, by the way. They were brought in as rifles. Reagan imposed a ban, and the Uzi ended up on there. The Galileo, the old Galileo, that you see in movies like Heat, that got cut too. So the Galileo we have now has U.S. parts in it.
Reagan.
To be compliant.
An Uzi saved his life, and he wants to ban them.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it. Well, I mean, it was surprising, but he did that.
He probably did it before he was assassination.
He did it before he was assassinated, correct, or attempted. Assassination. But yeah, this is all. It's a pistol, so it falls under the category of like even a Masada pistol or a Jericho. It's all made in Israel. This is not something we put any U.S. parts in.
Let's see. So Wigginsworth, how is the Uzi related to an AK? It's a gun. Shoots bullets.
Not really.
They're not really. Yeah.
You know, I think they're thinking of your comment about how it's AK-like in its simplicity.
Oh, okay.
I think that's where there was confusion there.
Could be.
It has to do with every weapon system that's ever been made. The Tavor is no exception. Has a philosophy behind it. They're looking at what they need to do, who they're training, how they're fielding it, where it's being used. The AK had a very specific purpose to it. The Uzi had a very specific purpose to it. It was simple. You know, they had the soldiers' welfare in mind, you know, with the gun as well. And I think that's where he's getting confused. And I understand your point. Simple, purpose-driven works is where you were going with the AK.
Well, it's the AK. The show's called the AK Korner too. So,
that's true.
But we do again. We chase squirrels, and even though we talked about the Galil last year, it is more like the AK than the Uzi, definitely. But anyway, next question. No, go
Sorry,
ahead.
I'm going to talk over you one more time, Marty. But the
Please.
other thing that's a really big deal that is like simplicity, but not, as I'm looking at the parts kits, the parts count on this gun is so freaking low. You know, it's like 20 parts or something. And if you just start to look at something like a FAL or an MP5, like the Germans and the Belgians do not mind adding extra parts. They'll put in 3 screws if one would do the job. And so, just watching Tom field strip this thing, it's like 2 moves and you got the gun off or the top cover off. You got the barrel out with just 1 nut. And I was never sure on how it was held in, but I do know now because of the clicky sound it makes is exactly the same as on a pump shotgun, where there's the little detent and castellations in the barrel nut there.
Yeah, it's
and,
specifically that little guy right there.
Yeah, and so there's just nothing to these things, and that's genius. Yeah, cool little detent there. So there's a lot of kindred spirit stuff going on.
Yeah, I got your point right away. I kind of agree. I agree with you.
Yeah, simplicity. There's your likeness. Rachel B33, excited for this, and I think she shoots an Uzi in competition, or she shot one recently in competition.
Good, awesome.
According to Rayo Shields there. So, yeah, I'd like to hear about your competition shooting there, Rachel, with your Uzi.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah.
Giddy up. What is IWI's favorite gun mod that they thought was so cool they added to their production guns?
Gun mod. Well, if you look at the new Galileo, had a pre-floated aluminum rail. So, yeah.
Let me ask you on the Pro, what materials are you using on that? Is it mainly composite?
So the only thing that they made composite was the lower piece. So this is all polymer down here, and that's what lightened it up. The number one complaint about the Uzi was, there's a couple. A lot of people don't like the grip safety on it, but was the weight. So they had to lighten it somehow, and that's where they put this polymer piece right here, which killed a lot of the weight in the gun very quickly. So it gets it around 4.5 pounds or something like that. I think the original one was like 7.5 or almost 8 pounds. With the wood stock, I think it was almost 9. It's kind of a mixture of those things. And the stock that you saw on the Full Auto Pro, the one you had up on the website, that one is a polymer composite too, because they're trying to lighten the gun as much as they can. So I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay.
There was one on here. I can't. Here it is. Cobra Commander. Speaking of GI Joe. How dependable was the Uzi? Was it prone to any kind of malfunctions? And I've heard of some malfunction issues that user created, basically.
They're user created typically,
Yeah.
and it had everything to do with sand getting in the action. If you got sand in it, enough sand in it, it just wasn't going to work anymore. But the one thing you could do to get it functioning again is you took the top cover off, dumped the sand out, put it back together again, and then it would really drive on. There was another ism of it, which was kind of unique. In semi-auto, if the gun was getting worn down, if it was getting old, it would trip twos occasionally. That was a known thing as well. Instead of firing one shot, it would brrrt. But, from the standpoint of, well, I'm shooting at him, if I happen to hit him with 2 rounds as opposed to 1, I guess that's okay too, right? So it was a problem, but it wasn't a problem. But that was if they were getting real worn out.
Yeah. Now, I've also heard issues with the grip safety.
Yeah.
That
not being able to deactivate it.
Well, not only that, but if it wasn't pressed in all the way,
yep,
then you would get malfunctions from that as well.
Well, that's a user-induced one.
Right. Right.
Yeah. That's what I was talking about before. The weight was the first one. The grip safety was the other. So this one, I'm going to cycle it. I'm on fire right now. Obviously, if I pull the trigger without depressing the grip safety, it won't go off. I push it in that far, there, it'll go off. But if you just pushed it in a little bit, it's not going off. I got to really jam it all the way down to get it to work. And that was a problem. There were I heard reports of this, I'm not sure how true this is, but guys that sort of taped it down, they were like, we don't even want to mess with it. We'll crank in on it and call it good. So that was a common thing to solve that problem. But again, one of the reasons they had it on there was the safety on the original Uzi, and even on the older mini Uzi, was not the easiest to hit. Can you see that okay?
I'm sorry, I was looking at questions here. Yeah, that looks good. Yep.
All right, so this one wasn't always easy to hit. So one of the methods of just putting the weapon back on safe was you just loosened up your grip and the weapon wouldn't fire again. Then you needed to shoot, you just grab it and you would shoot. So that was a method. They carried it, like I said, safety off, bolt down.
Yeah.
And they would charge it and then engage. You know, that kept sand out of the gun. And it was...
I watched a video with Larry Vickers, and he was like, tape it.
Yeah, he did what he did what some of them did. He would tape it down and eliminate it as a problem. That's exactly right.
Yeah, just tape it and then you got to worry about it. Oh,
yep,
kind of deal. All right, let's go to Facebook now, and we've got giveaways to do too. And our winners are going to come from all you lead heads that have posted comments to the post on Facebook and Instagram that I did. That's how you win on this show. We've got Seal One's going to be giving away one of their complete gun care kits from Seal One. Going to be giving away one of those. We're going to be giving away a dump tray, and it'll have the AK Korner. This isn't the AK Korner one, but it'll be a dump tray from Mission First Tactical. It'll have the Talking Lead AK Korner logo, as you can see on my shirt here.
Nice.
I got cookie crumbs all over it. I've been eating nutrient survival cookies. And then IWI, Tom, is going to be giving away 2 shirts and some stickers to 2 lucky lead heads. So
absolutely.
Let's go to Facebook here and let's read this one. Damon Geisler, am I remembering wrong, or did Uzi make a closed bolt auto for the Secret Service? Also, how many 41AE guns were made and imported into America? I'm
not sure on the 41AE, and as far as the Secret Service, I thought, and I could be mistaken, they were all regular open bolt guns, like what you saw with Reagan. That was an open bolt Uzi, as far as I know.
Yeah. But there were some, didn't they make some closed bolt?
They made closed bolt, but they were the semi-automatic rifles that were sent to the country. That's the only closed bolt Uzis that I am personally had my hands on, owned, and familiar with. Kind of like this is closed bolt. Mm-hmm. It was a very similar system that they did for the Uzi with the 16-inch barrel, because they had to. ATF, you can't have an open bolt semi-auto weapon in the U.S. So they made a closed bolt version that was a civilian version of the gun, if that makes sense. So
you'll like this one because you're a history buff.
Mm-hmm.
Austin Whalen asked, what important role in history did the Uzi play an important part in? I am not too familiar with the Uzi, so looking to get some legication on this one.
Okay, so like I said, it's been used in almost every major campaign since 1956, in particular, Suez. They were issued initially just to rear echelon guys, but it started working its way forward. The Entebbe raid in 76, it was used there extensively. Sayeret Matkal, which is their version of Delta, their counter-terrorist unit, that was one of their primary main weapon systems. Terrorists, PLO, used them quite a bit on a lot of their operations. I hate to say it, the bad guys did too. Obviously, in history, you showed one, Reagan. It being present
for our history. Yeah, I mean that's kind of one of the biggest.
It's one of the bigger ones, right?
Yeah.
So it's been used in multiple things throughout the world, and just about every major Israeli conflict there is, up to, I would say, I'm not sure if they had it in Lebanon 79. They probably did. I think they did.
So yeah, I've got a little list here. Service history, 1954 to present. In the 50s, it was used in the Suez Crisis.
Suez, yep.
The 60s, Portuguese Colonial War. The 6-Day War, the Vietnam War, and the War of Attrition.
Mm-hmm.
The 70s, Yom Kippur.
Yep, 73.
Internal conflict in Peru. The Angolan Civil War. And the Rhodesian Bush War.
Oh, yeah.
In the 70s. So the 80s, we've got a lot here. The Salvadorian Civil War, the Falklands, Sri Lanka, invasion of Grenada, the Lebanese Civil War, 1982 Lebanon War, South Africa Border War, which you said you spent some time in Africa.
Yeah, West Africa.
Not South.
Yeah, not South.
In the 90s, you got the Yugoslav Wars, Somalia Civil War, Sierra Leone Civil War, First Congo War in the 2000s, Darfur, the Mexican Drug War, Ivorian Civil War, First Ivorian Civil War, and then 2010's the Syrian Civil War. That's just some that get listed here.
But the most, one of the more famous ones was, like I said, almost every special operations thing they ever did against the PLO or in Entebbe. I mean, I remember watching the movie with Richard Dreyfuss. They made one back in the late 70s.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah. They also had 22 Beretta pistols they used in that thing, too. They were trying to take out this, the Sentries. They drove up in a Mercedes. It looked like it belonged to Idi Amin, and that's how they were going to get close to the Sentries and take them out. Well, they missed with the 22 Beretta pistols they had, and it was blah. They went loud. So, yeah, and it went all to hell from there. So
there's several questions about kits. Apparently, our lead heads, with a lot of hands-on listeners here, they're wanting to build one. We don't know a lot about the kit, so I don't think we're going to dive deep in those. Where are you seeing
the kits? Are they on Numrich, or where are you seeing those?
Everybody's out of stock in the normal places, but Gunbroker has a bunch of kits that are fully kitted out. It looks like, with a U.S. barrel and 80% receiver, some of them welded up for around 600. Raw parts kit, something like 300, something like that for a D-mill. So just, my first stop was at IWI for the Pro. And then when I saw you couldn't get a big one, I'm like, I need that big one as well. I want one of these little guys.
I want the big one. Big one. That's what she
just
said.
for nostalgia, not out of practicality. But yeah, somewhere at 300 to 600 from the looks of it. So yeah, that's one of the upsides of, like, kits for AKs have pretty much dried up. And so I have friends who are branching out and doing set me's and,
whatever they get their hands on, right?
Yeah, whatever they can. Well, but they're dirt cheap. Like, it's crazy how cheap they are compared to AK kits. I like a
set me. I like set me's.
Yeah, and like a 74 kit is now like 1,800 to get into, and a 47 kit, if you can't even really find any right now, but they're 600 to $2,000 depending on what you're looking for.
Mike Trejas Jr. wants to know: are Re-Weld kits legal?
If they were legally demilled and then get re-welded, and you don't weld it into a machine gun, I'm speaking as a private citizen, as long as you're following other laws, then yeah, you can totally do that. But you got to be real careful about not manufacturing machine guns, and the ATF has different rules for different guns.
These would be great questions for John at M13.
Yeah, we ought to
get him back on.
Yeah, and I'd like to get one of these kits welded up myself and have there's all these questions you have before. You have some questions before you do a thing, but then if you struggle bus your way through, and then you've got a bajillion intelligent questions. And so I'll, on behalf of Leadheads, I'll try and take some good notes as I'm putting this one together, and then we can ask the pros.
Take the hit for us.
Yeah, there it is.
So next question, this probably our last one. We need to start wrapping this up. Jonathan Gallup, giddy up. What's next for IWI? I heard about the next gen Galil Ace. Anything else in development? Good question.
There's lots of things in development, and if you ask almost any manufacturer, are they working on other things, the answer will always be probably. Yes, we are. But the Ace right now, the Ace 2, the one that we just released, the one you can look forward to is the 13-inch version. I know you guys are aware that that's coming out, and that's going to be pretty badass, to be honest with you. That's the one I'm really looking forward to. I like the rifle. I like the 8.3 inch gun in 7.62 in particular. That's what I have is the 7.62. But I don't think you can be in this particular job and just rest on your laurels and not change anything. And you notice that we have, the Tavor became the X95. The Galil in the 80s isn't what the Galil Ace. It is what the Galil Ace is, but it isn't what the Galil Ace is. And the Galil Ace just upgraded yet again. So, as we get user input from different people, we take that input, and you can tell on the Ace 2 that we took the suggestions and the things that people were doing to the gun, and we implemented damn near every one of them into that rifle, into that pistol, to make it what it is now. So
you guys just made a post on Instagram, I think it was today, of Tavor. One of your Tavors, It was beautiful. I love the Tavor.
Oh yeah, Manticore just did this round rail for it that I really like. This is not Uzi, it's Tavor, but Manticore did the Optimus rail, which is a round rail. Israel makes a round rail for the Tavor. People in the U.S. are crazy for it, and we don't import it. There's a few reasons for that, but one of the main ones is you can't just do the round rail. You have to do the top rail, has to be different. There's a plate that goes on the front that you have to get and put on. It becomes a bit of a nightmare. Well, Manticore came out with this Optimus rail, and I actually have one.
Oh,
and
nice.
Yeah, you want me to get it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
I do.
We love gun porn here.
Okay. I'll get it.
I'm going to ask him to talk about the Masada pistol also that they make.
Heck yeah.
I want to know a little bit about that too. But while he's getting that, be getting our random number generator ready, Brian, for our winners here. We're going to start picking some winners. Oh yeah, looky here. Let me do a little. Oh, it's Sharon. Okay.
Go ahead. Do your random generator. We'll come back to this.
No, we want to see this.
Okay.
I just want him to get it ready.
So it's the round rail as opposed to the square pick rail that was on there, and we had the 16-inch barrel, and I've actually talked to Sven about this. He was in my armorer's class, so
He's been on the show a couple of times too.
Oh yeah, he's a good guy. I like Sven.
He's a smart dude.
Guy. So yeah, very. But Israel had a round rail, like I was telling you, and the suppressor went inside of it. So there was lots of discussions about this. Now, obviously, he's the manufacturer of this, and he really did a good job on it. But on my SBR, the one I have for work that I just sent out to Arizona, I got to go to Arizona this weekend. The suppressor fits right about here, and it's internal.
Oh, nice.
So it's a 13-inch barrel, and it goes here, and then it sticks out about as long as this flash suppressor is. But the barrel
it shrouds over the barrel?
Shrouds over the can.
That's
and
awesome.
I screw the can on, and it's badass. But what this does is it allows me, and this was something I did I had a rail that I put together that he saw, and I put the flashlight. I like flashlights if I have a white light at the 12 o'clock. The reason for that is if you put a suppressor on the front of it and you have the light on the bottom or on the side, you get shadowing on your threat. So you can't necessarily see what's happening. Whereas you put it at 12 o'clock, it takes care of that. But I also run night vision, so it doesn't get in the way of my night vision. So I can run my thumb forward, and activate the light. And then I just bring my thumb down and I can activate laser and the switchology of it is very concise. Nice. And it fit all right in line. But it also, you guys probably do the same thing. I like to run my arm a little further out, and the regular X95 rail kind of stopped here about almost an inch and a half shorter than where I would have liked it.
Brian's arms are 3 times as long as ours are.
Yeah.
Brian's a big dude.
Yeah. No, that was a big part of the design of this rifle back here. That hand part is quite long. That's a 14.5-inch barrel, and I really like being able to do the Costa, as it is often referred to. And,
I don't quite Costa.
Well, that's true. I don't do
a bit more natural.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I built a 7.62 by 3.9, Brian.
Nice.
AR.
Hey, Marty.
Hey.
Hey, Marty.
Hey.
Go fuck yourself.
Well, you know why I did it?
Okay, tell me.
Because I want to show that your AK can outshoot this.
Oh, okay. I'll take it.
Okay.
I'll take that.
You want to take
It's
that back?
actually
You want to take that back
It's
now?
actually a beautiful gun.
That's the only reason I built it. It's because I'm going to pit it against the ODS 1775.
Oh, I'll take that bet all day long. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew you
Tom,
would.
That's another, there's this myth about AKs not being accurate, and we've never shipped a gun that shoots over 2 MOA with commie ammo. And yeah, it's interesting how those myths arise.
Go fuck yourself. I like that. I like that. Let's pick some winners now. Let's ingratiate our listeners with some of these prizes. And the first prize we're going to give away is the dump tray. So, Tom.
Yes, sir.
I don't know how many we've got here. We've got a bunch. Pick a number between 1 and, let's say, 100.
I'm going to go with 76.
76. All right.
As in 1776.
I like that. I'll start on Instagram, and I'm going to count down.
I had to go big. Sorry, you want me to go with a smaller number?
Nope.
No, I like the torture of Marty that you've got.
So there are. I'll just look because it tells me how many comments there are on Instagram, so I don't have to count them.
While Marty's doing that,
Keep talking,
I saw a comment from Boomdog Saint, who is
That's Art.
The manager of and one of the partners, I believe, in Royal Range, and they are a new distributor for Occam Defense. So I don't know if the ones we sent over are all sent out, but I wanted to thank them for becoming a dealer. And if you absolutely got to have one of our guns right here and now, give them a ring. Lead times are under 4 weeks right now, and we have parts we are actively building. So if you'd like one, you can buy from Art and have it now, or you can come to us for something custom if they can't help you out. But they're really good people, local to Nashville, and very happy to have them on board.
Are you down in Nashville? I didn't even know where you were at. So
Nashville, baby.
I come down there occasionally. I'll have to look you up when I get down there.
You better.
I go to Nunnally. There's a range facility down there.
We'll get you hooked up at Royal Range.
Okay.
So it is. What number did you say? 76?
76.
Bruner 1981 JPCE. So I don't know. Let's see if it's got his real name on here. Andy Bruner. You are the winner for the Talking Lead AK Korner dump tray. Bruner 1981 JPCE. Andy Bruner. Shoot me an email, talkinglead@gmail.com, with your contact information, shipping address, and what you won, because I'm not going to remember. So put that in the email too. All right, next prize. We're going to do the Seal 1. Complete gun care kit, Seal 1, CLP for all your gun cleaning needs, protection, clean, lubricates, it does it all. Got several different delivery methods for their product. Got the paste, got the liquid, you got the aerosol, they even got the pre-soaked wipes on there. So who's going to win this? Let's do a random number generator, Brian. Do one between 1 and 60.
Right. 51.
33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. What'd you say?
51.
51 is C.S. Schaefer Opic. Chris Schaefer looks like. Chris Schaefer, you have won the Seal 1 complete gun care package as all my shit falls down. Shoot me an email, talkinglead@gmail.com. Let me know that you won this, and give me your shipping address, and we'll send that over to Dwight. He'll get that out to you. So now we got 2 T-shirts and stickers package to give away.
Yep. 2.
All right, so what I want you to do, Tom, is I want you to go through Facebook. Actually, go through Instagram. You got access to Instagram?
I do.
And go to that post that I did. It's the one of my hero shot of me with the Uzi.
Hang on.
It looks like I'm constipated.
Hang on. Let me find it.
And I want you to go through there, and I want you to pick your favorite question. And that's who the winner's going to be.
Talking Lead. Shot with the Uzi. Hang on a second.
I got a hat on, a Charlie Mike Precision hat, a gray blue sleeve shirt, and I'm holding my belly like I got a fart.
I am on it. Hang on. I got you. Okay. So you want me to look at your comments there underneath? 27 of them.
Yeah, find your favorite question there. That's who's going to win one of your shirts and sticker packages. And the next one, I'm going to have you go to Facebook. That's probably going to be even more challenging for you to find.
Let's go with, what's the difference between the Ruger and the MP9? That was on there too. How about Tandem Dooley?
Tandem Dooley.
Tandem Dooley.
Nick Dooley. Nick.
Yep.
He's got a deep voice, deeper than that. I can't even get as deep as he gets. He's good at this. So there you go. Tandem Dooley, talkinglead@gmail.com. Shirt size, he's going to need like a 2X or something. He's a big boy. Probably 3X.
We may have that.
And we'll get your shirt and stickers to you. Okay. All right, do you have access to Facebook?
I'm on the Facebook right now. I see all the comments that are there.
Same post.
Yeah,
pick your favorite.
I'm going to go with, how about Jay Allen?
Jay who?
Jay Allen. Jay Allen.
Jay Allen. Okay, There it is, Jay. 2-part question.
Yep.
Talk about what is the preferred suppressor for the Uzi, which we talked a little bit about that, and what calibers are offered in the Uzi. We did that one too. So
good question. Yep.
Jay Allen, talkinglead@gmail.com. Tell me what you won. Give me your shirt size, and I'll send that all over to Tom, and he's going to get those shirts to you guys.
Yes, I will. We'll get them out to you.
Very cool. Very cool. So, is there anything that you can think of, Tom, that we were reluctant to talk about that we maybe should let our lead heads know about? We want to get them the full education here.
You are not a reluctant lot at all. I feel like everything that could come out did come out. So
I think so. We talked about a lot.
Good. I think we hit it pretty good. Did you want the Masada or not? I did pull one out.
Oh yes, I want to talk about I was going to ask you about that. So there was a question about what do you guys got coming out and whatnot. We haven't really talked about the Masada with you guys. So talk about your pistol, the Masada.
So it's another striker fire pistol, right? So just kidding. It's our version of it. It is completely ambidextrous with the magazine release button and slide stop and everything else. The interesting thing that I like about it is that the optics screw directly into the slide. And we spent a lot of time actually beating up 4 different optics for about 3,000 rounds or so. And I was not the only guy, but I was one of the guys. I was racking it off of ballistic shield and tables and all kinds of stuff. And it does a very good job of holding zero with the optics, and it sits low enough. The plate system works extremely well. I like that we went with a SIG cut dovetail front and rear. Is the first thing most people are going to do is they're going to yank that off.
Yeah.
The sights off. They're going to put on something. So to have a proprietary dovetail is just kind of dumb. The trigger on it's got a longer reset than a Glock. It's a little bit longer by 0.15. My Glock is roughly about 0.10. The thing that makes it
Hold it a little higher. There you
yeah, disassembling. The thing that makes it kind of interesting is, that it has, this ability to pop the frame out.
Oh, you take the whole trigger assembly and frame out.
Yeah, it's a serialized part right there. That is the gun right there.
Okay.
So, it's you show that and people go, huh, that's kind of interesting. It's like it's modular.
And
how's
do you
the
guys,
trigger?
Like SIG, SIG does that on one of the, I don't know if it's the 365 or whatever it's called, but they sell multiple grips and polymer bodies, whatever you want to call that thing.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing that with multiple sizes where you can convert from a compact to a subcompact or whatever, or different grip, size for like big gorilla hands versus small female hands, that kind of thing?
Grip wise, there's 3 different grips for it. This is the medium, it's got a small, and it's got a large. So that you wouldn't need to worry about that part of it. But the fact that it can do that kind of, begs the question, like you're saying, and maybe at some point in time that will happen. But for now, this is the pistol itself. There's no difference on it. Now, you saw overseas they have, and in Canada, they have colors. So the idea was also you could change the color of the frame out and go with a green or a tan, but we don't have that. The U.S. got black. And the one thing that makes this gun pretty interesting, though, is the price of it. Full retail is $480, so you'll find it for $4.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know, for all this. And I'll be honest with you, also the magazines, we did a pretty good job on that. There's a bunch of aftermarket on the mags. They're very similar to Smith & Wesson magazine, 17 round, and there's already extended base plates for it. The Taylor Freelance, X-Tech Tactical makes one for the Smith & Wesson. It drops right onto our magazine. It works.
Does the Smith & Wesson mag work in that?
No, it'll fit in, but it won't lock because our locking system is different.
Gotcha.
It's the same angle and everything else. And I think, I'll be honest with you, I think that's the reason I enjoy shooting this so much. I had to carry a Glock professionally for years. I carried it overseas for years, and I'm not bagging on the Glock. There's a lot of Glock folks out there. I never was excited about the grip angle. I like a more upright grip angle. That's just me. And now that I don't have to carry it, I can carry whatever I want. I kind of preferred the more upright angle. So before we came out with the Masada, it was more of a Smith & Wesson type gun that I liked, or a SIG. Like the 320 is a pretty good grip angle. The Masada kind of is on that same path. It's extremely comfortable, and this one has only about 9,000 rounds through it, or 8,000. The one I use
Only.
well, yeah. The one I use at work was one of our test guns. We got to 10,000 with it without cleaning it, and I've cleaned it since then, obviously. But it's got about 14,000 rounds through it, and it's running like a top. So nice. I'm pretty happy. Pretty happy with the gun.
Still got the good barreling and everything, the rifling on it.
Oh yeah, no, that part's fine. I was at, where was I last with it? It wasn't Georgia. Might have been Tennessee. I had it down there, and we were whacking and hitting a plate at 100 yards with the red dot on it, and sweet. No big deal. Yeah, it's a good shooting pistol.
Yeah, I need one of those in my life.
Definitely. Well, we'll talk offline, and or you can talk to Jeremy offline as well. There's always that. But it's
let's talk to you.
Well, I'm here, right?
You're there. Yeah. You're there. Very nice. So yeah, I've been interested to talk about that, and of course, you guys have a lot of other offerings. I mean, we're talking about the Tavor. You've got the shotgun Tavor now. Is it the TS12?
TS12. Yeah.
You're in the AR market with the Zion 15 now.
I got one of those here too. It's actually. It's a really cool system. I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's another thing I want to talk about too. Definitely. And then, of course, the Jericho. We had mentioned the Jericho earlier for something that came up, but
we were talking about different calibers that the Jericho came in.
Okay, yeah, and you guys are doing the Jericho Enhanced. Now, compare that with the Masada.
Nothing like it.
This is probably a whole nother show. I mean, we should probably just do a whole nother show with this.
It really is. It's a whole different.
You guys have so much talk about. So
some more 7308. We have the, obviously the newer Galil. That's a show unto itself a little bit, talking about the history of the Galil and the Galil now, because that's a storied history as well.
When did the 2 come out?
Last week.
Okay.
Officially.
So yeah, definitely we need to talk about that too. So we've got a lot to talk. We're just gonna have you guys back on, and we'll have you on the regular show, and we'll just talk about all of your new offerings and everything. Because we're doing another Rogan show here, so we need to wrap this one up definitely.
I can bring in some of the fun stuff too. Like if you get into the X95, we can talk about the full auto variants and all the different kinds. And
absolutely, we want to do that.
We even have access to belt feds. Just saying.
Nice. Very good.
What?
So, Leadheads, thank you so much for all your participation, all the questions that you sent in for Tom at IWI here. Hopefully, we answered them all. If we didn't, shoot me an email, talkinglead@gmail.com. If you've got some unanswered questions that we can help you out with, be happy to forward those on. Or if I can't answer them, which I probably can't, we'll definitely do that. And, of course, all those questions that you guys had that would be better fit for John over at M13, we'll definitely get him back on again, Brian, and do a whole nother show on that kind of stuff.
Heck yeah.
But big thanks to all our sponsors, IWI US. Go check them out on their website, their social medias. Give them a big like. And, of course, the best way that you can show how much you appreciate them is go buy their products if they're available, if you can find them.
We're trying, believe me.
Well, I mean, everybody is. It's just the nature of the world right now. It is. It's a different animal. And, of course, Occam Defense Solutions. Brian over at Occam Defense Solutions, 1775. Love my ODS. Took it out this past weekend. Me and Drew went out, went camping, and took it out along with some other things. Posted. Did you see those posts I did with the is 106-year-old Mosin Nagant that I was shooting?
Holy cow!
I missed that.
Yeah, I've got to shoot.
Oh wait, no, I think I did see it. The comment was something like "very serviceable," still shoots great after 106 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's still accurate. I was fucking nailing the target. I mean, we didn't go very far. We were like 75 or something like that. But that, and then we did an SVT. Had an SVT out there that was 1940s SVT.
Wow.
Still running great. So we had a good time. But we took the ODS 1775 out, of course. I got to take it out every time I go and pop rounds with it. We had a good time.
Nice.
Talk about everything you guys got going on.
Well, we're shipping it as fast as we can build it. We're shipping rifles, our Merc handguard. Let's see, we have a brand new product about to drop. Probably next episode we'll be able to talk about that one.
We have about that off air.
Yeah, for sure. There's something hiding in this gun that is a prototype about to be released. Let's see.
Don't you feel left out, Tom? We're holding up all our.
No, you're good.
You need to join the club, brother. ODS.
Do you want me to hold something up? Hang on.
No, you need an ODS 1775.
I'm going to go back to this guy right here.
There you go. Rub it in.
A bullpup.
So
of all the cool stuff that you've showed us today, you got to lift the bullpup up. I was trying to be polite before, but it just slipped out this time.
I know.
I love bullpups.
So, we've got a 7.5, an 8, and a 9-inch brace out. I'm actually machining those tonight after we get off the air. And let's see, our Hex folding stock. We just shipped a pile of those. We're getting hinges from SIG as fast as they can get them to us. That is the big bottleneck with stocks right now, both with us and JMac is running into the same issue. But yeah, we're doing well here despite the conditions and inflation that everybody is now very aware of, and grateful for everybody's support and patience with us. Oh, and Occam Lube, that's right.
Hint, hint.
We've relaunched Occam Lube as its own company. My friend Buell Collins, formerly of Fiocchi Marketing, is running that, and we are shipping the DIY kits now, and pre-filled syringes are going to be back online somewhere. They're stuck in customs at the moment. We have to get a few parts made outside of the U.S. And so when those get in and get out of deadlock at the port, we'll be shipping pre-filled white, red, and black grease in those.
Nice.
Yep.
Seal One. Make sure you go to seal1.net. Use the code LEADHEAD. You're going to get 25% off any of their products there at Seal One. This is a great product, especially if you want to prevent corrosion. So it works not only for your guns, but anything, your knives, your marine equipment, anything you can put it on that you want to prevent corrosion. This stuff is great. CLP, it's all bio-based. So try it out. You're going to like it. And it smells good, too. You can put it on as a little aftershave if you got a Tinder date or something. Make you smell good.
And as good a product as it is, the owners are better people. And, they're American. They're Americans. They're retired veterans, former SEALs. And so good. It's a good thing to go. And even if you love what lube you have, be awesome if you went and tried out some Seal One and helped out a fellow American.
Absolutely. And of course, Mission First Tactical, you can get, and this one's in a bag. I don't know if you can see it or not, but they got their 30-round magazines. They've got the window magazines now. This one's not a window magazine, but you can get your logos, or you can get any kind of art you want to put on there. They can ink inject it in there. It'd be cool. They've got CS spray, pepper spray. They've got the dump trays that we've got, the tactical wallets. You've seen all that. Mission First Tactical. Use code, I believe it's Leadhead, and you get 20% off at Mission First Tactical. So go show them some love. We're going to have some special edition stuff for NRA coming up if they have it. Since they just got busted, for bankruptcy or something. I don't know if they're going to have NRA or not.
They're not getting bankruptcy.
They're not. They don't get to file for bankruptcy. They don't get to file for bankruptcy. So I guess they need the money from the convention. So they definitely should have the convention.
We're going, so we'll see you there. We're going to be there.
Okay, we're going to be set up at Kel-Tec's booth. So
you are?
We're going to have the lead quarters. The official lead quarters is going to be Kel-Tec this year in Houston at the NRA convention. So we'll see you there. If you lead heads are going to be able to make it out there, make sure you come by the Kel-Tec booth and say hey. There's no telling what all we're going to have. We got a lot of things lined up that we're going to have for giveaways. So some stuff with Mission First Tactical, Seal One. And then Factory 47, you want one of these awesome AK Korner t-shirts, hoodies, or the mugs. We've got the mugs also with our logo. The shirts, the hoodies, everything has this on the back of them, just like the mug. So you get the, what are those? The factory logos, the AK factory logos on there.
Another veteran, another good American, real patriot, a great artist, and he's becoming quite the expert welder at re-welding old guns. So, nice. Quite a Renaissance man and a really good person. Yeah,
James over at Factory 47. Use the code LEADHEAD, and you're going to get 10% off at Factory 47. We would like it if you would buy our AK Korner stuff, but he's got so much awesome stuff there. I'm not going to hold it against you if you decide to add several more things to your cart. Factory47.com. And then we've got all kinds of other discount codes. Make sure you listen to our regular show, and I'll have them on the video. I have like scrolling stuff on the video that I can add in now. So when you're watching this on YouTube, there'll be like links and stuff like that. So very good. Tom, greatly appreciate you taking the time to be on with us. Very, very educational. I learned a lot this episode. Thank you so much. I would love to have you back on. I mean, just talk guns, man. You know your shit.
Well, let me know. And if you give me enough heads up, if you wanted to talk about a diverse array of things, I can always have it here to put it up on the screen.
Have our gun porn ready for the
I will.
video, right?
I'm sorry I didn't have the Uzi Pro, the full auto here. I wish I'd had it, but it's
That's okay. You know, I made a special trip, and I got some pictures and some video of that for our lead heads. So I'll be posting those along with the show when we post it. So be paying attention to that. And then again, go and support our sponsors. Go show them the love. Let them know how much you appreciate them. And that's how we're able to bring this show to you each and every month, the Talking Lead AK Korner. We'll be back next month with a new episode and new topic for the AK Korner. So until the next episode of the AK Korner, lead heads, get out to the range, and hopefully I'll see you there.
Absolutely.